Yeah, they hate when you elevate. You're stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way too fly. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself, yeah. Why would I give it up? Why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. This my vocation, now I got rollies, all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Starting all black like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. I ain't make it this far for myself, yeah. I had to prove to everybody else, I had to set them straight, yeah. I had to ball, so I had to renovate, I know. They hate when you elevate. You're stacking up losses, I'm handing them out. In the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight.
Yeah.
They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine, rise and grind, grand rising to everybody in the building, man. Applause to you guys, man. Shout out to you guys for showing up this morning. It's early. You know how we do it. We're trying to stay consistent with this morning show right here that we putting together. Shout out to everybody who's here right now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna Ryan Frazier boxing. Hey, Ryan Frazier, salute, fam. Yo, I see you up there right now with Ness in there, man. Salute to you, King. That's a good look for you up there too, as well, man. Definitely, man. Congratulations to that situation, man, for sure, man. Shout out to AK Crowder in the building. Shout out Bobby Collins in the building. Salute, King. Salute the bronze man in the building. Rise and grind, Claymore. Man, we going to. Oh man, Big Herm, prayers up to the chat. Big ups to Claymore. Prayers up to you, Big Herm. Prayers up to you. Yeah, we definitely got to talk about it, right, Bronze? That's one thing I keep telling you guys. You know, when I do these shows, these little 4 days, like, you know, letting the weekend go by, it gives an opportunity for a lot of things to develop. And we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, Jerron Boots Ennis seems to be at the top of the news, but maybe for the wrong reasons, right? Jerron Boots Ennis in the news for the wrong reasons, possibly, right? Potentially. Or maybe he is, right? We're going to talk about it today because across the space right now, Boots is definitely getting the duck energy, the duck soup, the duck sauce, right? They got him in all kind of memes. Very disappointed, to say the least, that the fan base seems to be with Jerron Boots Ennis's decisions as of late. And we got to talk about it because if you guys follow me close enough, you guys know that it's been almost a year. I would say at least the last 6 to 8 months that I've been campaigning about Jerron Boots Ennis going 154 pounds. I just feel like that's the division he's supposed to be in. I feel like that's what I think there's, you know, all the boxes get checked at 154. The legacy gets checked, the money gets checked, the activity gets checked. And I just don't see any reason not to go to 154. But at the same time, we got to talk about it. Try to keep it as unbiased and on an even playing field as possible, because although us fans have our reasons as why we want Boots to go up there, Boots and his father and his team also have their legacy that they're concerned about and things they want to accomplish. And of course, we're going to talk about unified championships at 147 pounds, undisputed accolades at 147 pounds. And we got to talk about it and weigh it out, right? And see exactly what we're looking at. There's also been information out there as far as Boots negotiating, not negotiating, knowing he was in negotiations, not knowing he was in negotiations, Eddie Hearn potentially working behind his back. Is Eddie able to facilitate what Boots needs? We got to talk about all that, right? We're going to put that all in perspective. Obviously, we're also going to jump into other conversations as well, right? We're going to jump into Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson being cemented and where they're going to end up being. It looks like they are going to be on that February 22nd Riyadh season card. And of course, yesterday, a big announcement by Turki Al-Sheikh as far as the Riyadh season card being announced. And, as I anticipated, Turki Al-Sheikh is showing why he is potentially the face of boxing at this point, while Riyadh season seems to be capturing boxing down to its most, to its foundational qualities, right? Really just capturing the best, fighting the best, 50-50 fights. I think Two-Tone put up something last night, 50-50 squabbles, 100%, man, 100%, right? Like, this guy, Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia approaching this boxing game, taking the boxing game by storm in 2024. And as I mentioned, going into 2025, we're anticipating great things. I am personally, everybody to each their own, but I'm anticipating great things for boxing. World Championship boxing right now is benefiting from Turki Al-Sheikh's interest and obviously his resources that he's investing in making the sports big. We're going to talk about that. Vergil Ortiz as well, challenging himself. We're going to talk about the new matchmaking that's been made for him, being that obviously Jerome Boots Ennis isn't in the conversation anymore. Vergil Ortiz, everybody was weighing out Sebastian Fondoris as Xander Zayas. I think we got a little bit of a curveball. Nobody should have expected the matchup that was made between Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov, right? Insanity to even think about this another Eastern European fighter that Vergil Ortiz Jr. is going to get in the ring with. You got to give Vergil Ortiz his respect. He's definitely not turning down any smoke, turning down any fades. This fight with somebody who a lot of people thought beat Terrence Bud Crawford, not yours truly. I didn't think that, but people did think that. Coming off of a showcase against Serhii Balchik, somebody in his last fight who a lot of people thought that Vergil lost. We're going to talk about all that. We got so much to talk about. And of course, towards the end of the show, we're going to open up the panel because I definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking about it. Let me look up into the chat right now and see who I am. Who I've missed. I shout out Big Herm, Bobby Collins in the building. What's your opinions on Norman Sr. versus Hackett? We're going to talk about that as well. Blue Blood made a big announcement yesterday. Look, I think it's interesting, right? We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Trust me, Bobby Collins. We're going to talk about it. I think it's interesting. Am I super excited about it? I think personally, yes, I am excited about it because I know Greg Hackett and Brian Norman Sr. And I have my own personal interest in it. Is this a great thing for boxing? Come on, it's not a great thing for boxing, but I think in the content creation space, I think amongst us in here who I'm sure you guys go on Greg Hackett's show, you've seen the interactions that he's had with Brian Norman Sr. And it is interesting for a lot of us to see that come together. We'll talk about that as well, right? We'll open the floor up for you guys to speak on that too. Let me see here, Mr. Big Play Brain. Mr. Big Play Brain, of course, my brother from another mother, my ox. Let's begin the show. Let's get it cracking. Let's do what we came here to do, man. Let's build on this boxing. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? So everybody mad at Boots, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody mad at Boots, and why? Why is everybody mad at Boots? Well, I already kind of gave an upfront explanation about what the issue is, right? Jerome Boots Ennis sitting at 147 pounds. Unfortunately, not been able to really do anything productive in a division as far as unifying titles. The closest thing he's gotten is a title that was basically stripped away from Terrence Bud Crawford, and he was upgraded from his interim IBF title into a full champion in the IBF championship. He's actually never had an opportunity to actually fight for a championship at 147 pounds in the traditional way, right? Maybe you want to say that fight between him and Villaroma was some sort of qualification for it. Maybe you want to say him beating Karen. I don't know how you guys want to paint it, but I think most people understand and agree that Boots Ennis was ultimately, just to be frank, emailed a championship belt as far as the IBF championship is concerned that he currently possesses. And he's been looking to sort of legitimize himself in that division. Now, I think most hardcore fans in the boxing space know the talent that Jerome Boots Ennis has, right? We're not crazy. We understand how talented he is, but at the end of the day, some people might say sitting at 147 pounds, being that every other champion in the division doesn't seem to be as motivated or hasn't shown in history to be as motivated to fight Jerome Boots Ennis. He's never had an opportunity to get out of Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence or any of those guys. And he seems to be just growing. He's 27, getting ready to be 28 years old. I always tell you guys, boxing is all about timing, right? The matchups, everything is about timing. And for these fighters, they have a small window. I've said it and I'll say it over and over again. You got a small window to capitalize and be the best version of yourself, to take the best athletic version of yourself and compete at the highest level in the sport. Jaron Boots Ennis, to the outside, from the outside looking in, just looks like he's hanging out at 147 a little too long for no real reward. And so that being said, it's been months that I've been campaigning saying that I believe Jaron Boots Ennis should consider going to 154. Some people thought I was crazy back then. Even my co-host at the time, Ray Davis, who isn't here now, but I'm sure he'll be popping up shortly, or he should be popping up at some point in time. But at the end of the day, why stay at a division at 147 pounds where you can't unify, right? You can't even really get a title fight. The only way you got a title was through an email. This kid has a lot of talent. He's not a kid, he's a man, excuse me. And we want to see him do great things. Well, finally, he has a performance against Karen Kukadajian, or Kukajin. I'll never say that man's last name correctly. He has a fight with him, a rematch with him that most people didn't want to see, but it turned out to be a fight that was rather exposing, right? It got real competitive in that match where people didn't think it was going to be competitive, and questions and concerns started becoming around Jaron Boots Ennis as far as his talent. Is he a hype job, right? Is this guy who he thought he is? Because when you think of Jaron Boots Ennis, they've always been trying to talk about him and Terrence Crawford fighting each other, him being a generational talent. They've compared it to the Canelo Alvarez, Floyd Mayweather situation where Terrence should give Jaron Boots Ennis this opportunity, bring in the new blood and let there be a new face of boxing in some ways, right? But in this particular fight with Karen, it just didn't go that way, right, guys? We got to be honest. The fight just seemed like Boots was either Boots wasn't himself in that fight, or we've been fooling ourselves thinking that Boots Ennis is somebody who he really isn't. You can take it how you want to take it. Some people will go with the latter. Some people will go with the first foremost. I said that he wasn't himself. Me personally, I don't think he was himself that night, the best version of himself that night. But at the same time, I do give some legitimacy to the idea that not that he's not as good as we thought he was, but maybe he stopped developing. Maybe he regressed a bit. Being that the competition he's fighting, he's not respecting the competition. He's not bringing his A game. He's more concerned with showboating, entertaining the crowd. Right, guys? We've seen it. He's trying to do things, and in the midst of doing that, he's getting hit, and you can't help but when you see somebody getting hit by a fighter you don't think is on his level, you can only imagine what would happen if he gets in the ring with a Terrence Crawford, if he gets in the ring with a Vergil Ortiz, or any of those. Really, if he jumps into that hornet's nest of 154 pounds, there's a lot of fighters up there that I don't think we want to see Boots getting hit by the way he was getting hit by Karen, right? But even with a Brian Norman, who came out of the woodworks after seeing that performance and saying that he wanted to make a priority to fight Jaron Boots Ennis next. Now, we saw how messy that negotiation was between Jaron Boots Ennis and Brian Norman Sr. A month or two back ago. We saw how that kind of went. So that kind of built up some steam behind it. But regardless, at this point, even Jaron Boots Ennis spoke at the post-press conference, right, guys? He spoke at the end of the match, right? And he said maybe it's time for him to consider going the other way. Maybe we should go to 154, because 147 just doesn't seem to be providing him with the kind of competition he needs for him to step up and bring his best game forward. Right, guys? Give me some time to build it, because I know everybody's building here. I'm trying to keep up with everything going on. Salute the Bullet Gibson, the building, D-Town Funk in the building. Yeah, definitely wipe your feet, hit the like button when you guys walk in the building. I appreciate you guys. Shout out to J.R. Spock in the building. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Shout out to P.D. Russell in the building, guys. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I always invite you to go ahead and do that as well. So where did I leave off, Ralph, right? Even Jaron Boots Ennis, after that performance, had to concede to the idea. He had to start entertaining the idea and saying, listen, man, if 147 isn't going to manifest this legacy that me and my father's been focused on manifesting, then it's time, guys, it's time to do something else. And he finally jumped on board. And I think a lot of us were relieved to finally hear Jaron Boots Ennis say it, right? Man, I think I might have to go to 154. It might not be in here, right? And this opportunity might not be ready to roll out for me in this division. And I can't stay here with so long. Tonight, especially being this, he's defending his IBF title. You guys got to remember that IBF rehydration clause is something we all have to take into consideration. And the only way Boots gets out of that IBF rehydration clause, how? That's if he unifies. If he jumps into unification title fights, if he attempts to unify with the WBC, the WBO, or the WBA, then that rehydration clause goes out the window. Boots is in a better position. Maybe it's not so hard to be at 147, but as long as all he has to look forward to is mandatory defenses, well, then now that weight cut may be weighing in a little bit tough on Boots, and it's time for him to make some choices. We got excited, but he said one very important thing, right, guys? Let's be honest. He did say one important thing in that ring that I think a lot of people are just running over a little bit. He said, listen, if those guys in the division want to unify and make those fights happen, I'm here to make it happen, right? I'm definitely here to make it happen. But I think as fans of boxing, and we want to see the best fights possible, we know those great fights are waiting for Boots at 154. A lot of us might have tuned that out and just heard him going up to 154, but Boots Ennis seemed to have sparked some interest by his counterparts, his peers, his fellow champions at 147 pounds, who are now talking specifically Mario Barrios and Brian Norman, right? I don't know if I heard Staniona say anything, but specifically them, especially Brian Norman, saying that his priority was going to be to make a unification fight with Boots Ennis. And we got to look at it. Me, you know what I'm saying? Myself personally, I think he heard that. And I think that might have sparked some interest from Boots Ennis. And we got to talk about that. Boots Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. potentially putting a fight together to unify. And I think Boots, once again, becomes conflicted with the problem he's been dealing with the whole time, which is, does he stay at 147 and at a potential opportunity, and I emphasize on potential opportunity, to unify a title with Brian Norman, or does he say, you know what, you guys have all had your chances, I have a huge opportunity in front of me? Because at the same time, while he's thinking about that, Turki Al-Sheikh, Riyadh season, whoever the matchmakers over there are concerned, they come together and the light bulbs start going off, right? Fireworks start going off in their head, and they start saying, I want to see Boots Ennis, on this next card. We're trying to make the greatest card that the boxing game's ever seen. And how great of a fight would have been to see Jerome Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz fight, this potential 5v5 type of energy, since especially with Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn being at each other's throats. They send an offer out. And here's where it becomes real interesting, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it becomes really interesting, because this offer goes out from a third party, right? It looks like it was a third party. It wasn't Eddie. Eddie didn't send the offer to Vergil, and at the same time, Vergil didn't send the offer to Eddie. It seems like the matchmakers of Riyadh season sent out an offer to both these fighters, and it seems like somewhere the wires might have gotten crossed between trying to entertain Boots, trying to stay at 147, or not making up his mind up, at least if he's going to go to 154, and then trying to put this fight together with Vergil Ortiz. It seems like, according to Eddie Hearn, an offer went out to Eddie Hearn and Jerome Boots Ennis for a fight with Vergil Ortiz at, get this, 147 pounds. 147 pounds. So now the whole space is, well, not the space is going crazy, because in all honesty, we're not aware of it yet, but I think Eddie Hearn may have been aware of how odd and weird that offer was. But listen, he's saying if they're willing to come down to 147, my fighter is not sure if he wants to go to 154, but if Vergil Ortiz wants to come down to 147, this is a no-brainer. We get our cake and we get to eat it too, right? We stay at 147. We defend our IBF title. We get a big fight on a Riyadh season card. We make a big payday. If they're happy, I'm happy. If they like it, I love it. Let's put it together. Obviously, Oscar De La Hoya, Vergil Ortiz's team over there, Robert Garcia, those guys saw that immediately, turned that away, right? But it gets out into the space, and what are they saying in the space, guys? What are you guys probably saying? Did Jerron and Eddie try to bring Ortiz down to 147 pounds? Is that what we just saw? And how diabolical is that? Knowing that Vergil Ortiz almost died trying to make 147 pounds, right? Passed out one or two, maybe two or three times, went through it all crazy, right? So they turn it down, but the space is starting to feel like duck talk. Duck music is starting to be played, guys. Why? Because you guys, we all know that Vergil Ortiz isn't coming down. And you would think Eddie Hearn and Jerome Boots Ennis would know that as well. And then there's a rumor going around that Eddie Hearn is the one trying to pull him down, right? Jerome Boots Ennis is trying to pull him down. But if you guys pay close attention, you want to be honest about it, it's a third party, right? Whoever's doing the matchmaking is trying to get Boots to sign off on this because Eddie Hearn is letting the matchmakers know, listen, we can't confirm it yet because Boots hasn't made up his mind if he wants to stay at 147 or if he wants to go to 154. The matchmakers have the pressure on their back because Turki Al-Sheikh is putting the pressure on the matchmakers because he wants to announce this card, right? He wants to announce this card like he just did yesterday, and he wants this done and to get it over with. So if Boots is only going to sign for 147, he hasn't made up his mind if he can go to if he's going to go to 154. Let's see Vergil come down to 147. Let's put the offer out there and see what happens. Maybe they're being diabolical, right? It doesn't matter at this point because ultimately, as long as that fight was going to be at 154, Boots Ennis made it very clear that he just wasn't comfortable yet. Eddie Hearn, in every single interview he had, made it clear that he had to wait for Jerron Boots Ennis to pull the trigger as to whether or not he was going to go to 154 pounds and leave 147 pounds and vacate his belt, which we have to talk about as well, right? Him vacating the IBF title belt or being stripped of the IBF title belt. Which one was it going to be, right? I'll say that I heard Eddie Hearn say if he was to go ahead and leave 147 with Boots to go to 154, that they said they would be forced to drop the IBF titles. And I think words are important in a conversation like this, right? In a situation like this, words become important, ladies and gentlemen. Why do words become important? Words become important because there is a difference between dropping and vacating a belt and being stripped of a belt, right? There's a difference. Are you guys still with me? You riding with me? I know I'm going, but rock with me because we're going to walk through this. If you guys just stay patient with me, let's walk through this. There's a difference between vacating or dropping a belt and being stripped of a belt. So the question has to be, is Boots Ennis at risk of his title being stripped away from him if he went to fight at 154? Or was he talking about vacating the belt? I don't know which way it went, right? But if he's talking about vacating the belt, let's just entertain it for a minute. If he is talking about vacating the belt, why would he vacate his IBF title, right? Well, one might say that Boots feels like if he goes to 154 pounds, he has no plans on coming back down to 147. If Boots is actually dealing with difficult weight cuts at 147 or difficulty keeping that rehydration clause, staying inside of 10 pounds, right? Inside of 10 pounds the morning of the fight, then if he goes up to 154, I think it's reasonable to argue that he might decide not to come back to 147. So this is a bigger decision. This is a bigger decision, in my opinion, for Boots Ennis than just going up and going down. I think Boots Ennis is looking at it as all in or all out. If I go to 154, I'm not coming back to 147. Therefore, I'd be vacating my IBF title. I wouldn't want to go back down and wait to fight down there for these championship belts. Now, people could take that for whatever it's worth, right? I'm speculating. Let's keep that 100. I'm speculating. But I'm keeping it 100 that Eddie Hearn didn't say stripped of. He said vacate or drop his title at 147 if he was to go up to 154. So the pressure is on. The space is bubbling. There's already news going out about this fight card coming together. We're hearing about Better Be Even Bivol 2. We're hearing about Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker. And we're hearing about Vergil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis. And everybody's bubbling. We're ready to see Jerron Boots Ennis finally be challenged, be in the ring with somebody we think as close as possible to a 50-50 fight. And we get the rug pulled under us, right? Because as the dates are coming closer, the pressure's coming on Eddie Hearn and on Jerron Boots Ennis to make a decision. Turkey wants to make the announcement. Finally, Jerron Boots and his team, Eddie Hearn, say, we're going to walk away from this fight. This fight isn't going to make it. We're not going to make the deadline to announce what Boots is going to do. So we're going to pass on it. The boxing space goes upside down. Jerron Boots Ennis has ducked Vergil Ortiz, right? He's ducked him, guys. He's ducked him. He had an opportunity to be great, to make a big payday, to enter the best division in the sport, and he decided to stay in the division that hasn't shown him any love, that he's not able to get any unification title fights on. And honestly, the question has to come up at some point in time, was that a smart decision at this point or not, right? Was that a smart decision at this point? And I'm trying to find my thing, not this one, 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 not this one. Okay, let's just stay right here, right? Let's stay right here, right? So does Boots Ennis even have a chance at unifying? Or maybe he can unify, but is he realistically, does anybody in here believe that Boots Ennis is going to become undisputed at 147? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think so. I just don't think he's going to do it. I'm be real with you. I don't think he's going to become undisputed at 147. And at some point, you have to start weighing out your options and start dealing with life in a real way. This is your career. Maybe he thinks that, do I think he can get the fight with Brian Norman? Yes. It looks like Brian Norman Sr. wants to make the fight happen. I don't take Brian Norman Sr. to be a joke. I think it's going to cost top dollar, obviously. Eddie Hearn's going to have to pay Brian Norman Sr. top dollar. That's a whole nother part of the conversation, amount of money that's going to have to be spent in order to put this together. Salute to Just Do Boxing. Salute, right? You got to spend a whole lot of money in order to get those belts together at 147. Is it going to be worth it? Jerron Boots Ennis is towards the end of his agreement or contract with Eddie Hearn. Jerron Boots Ennis planning on re-signing with Eddie Hearn? We have no idea, right? That's between Eddie Hearn, Jerron Boots Ennis, and God, right? We have no idea. But you have to think that Eddie Hearn has to be taking into consideration his return on investment, money he's going to be spending, how much he's going to have to put out to put these fights together. Let's not get it twisted. Matchroom, Eddie Hearn is in the business with Jerron Boots Ennis to make money. They're not here to do anybody any favors, nor do they owe anybody any favors. They are here to make the most money they can make. Is it the most profitable thing for Eddie Hearn to sit there and pay every fighter that Jerron Boots Ennis needs to fight against in order to be a unified champion, overpay them? $2 million plus guaranteed each fighter. Look at it from the outside looking in and understand that Mario Barrios just came out of a fight on an MVP card and supposedly walked away with a $3 million guarantee, right? To fight Abel Ramos. Not to say that Abel Ramos is a nobody, but let's say this, it turned out to be a super competitive fight, ended up in a draw, right? Some people felt like Abel won. Some people felt like Mario Barrios won, but he got paid $3 million for it. Is Mario Barrios getting ready to jump inside of the ring with Jerron Boots Ennis for less money for an even more difficult fight, a fight that he's probably going to be going into not the favorite to win? It's a lot of commitment and a lot of resources that are going to have to be committed to keep Jerron Boots Ennis at 147 fighting in unified title, so he doesn't have to defend his title with mandatories and ultimately be stuck underneath that rehydration clause. It can get complicated, to say the least. It seems legitimately practical and logical for Boots Ennis to be at 154 right now. It just does. It looks like that. Now, you guys know me. I'm not the duck guy. I'm not the duck guy. I don't do the duck music that easily. I'm not as loose with the duck talk as everybody else is in this space right now. I just don't speak that way. But I'll say this. I think Boots should have went to 154. I'll say just straightforward. He should have took the opportunity to fight Vergil Ortiz. That fight was going to potentially, whoever wins between Vergil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis becomes the new face or the biggest face or youngest threat in 154. This guy who wins this fight between Vergil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis is lining himself up for the biggest fight possible in the division. This is for a WBC interim title. It puts him in the conversation with fighting Sebastian Fundora or a winner between Sebastian Fundora and Errol Spence. It puts him in the conversation of fighting against Terrence Crawford. It puts him in the conversation of fighting against Bakram Murtazaliyeva. I hope I can't say his last name for nothing. It puts him on the A side as well of fights that aren't championship fights, right? Puts him as the A side against Erickson Lubin, right? Puts him in the A side against a Xander Zayas or a Tim Tszyu or any of these fights that would be big fights. Put him and keep him in a seat as an A side and also keep him in the payroll of Turki Al-Sheikh. Legacy, activity, money, right? All in the same card, all in the same division. So I got to be honest. I got to be honest and be 100 with you guys and say, nah, Boots. And I think those decisions that you make right now, this is going to be some of the hardest decisions that Boots may have to make in his whole entire career. This may be the most pivotal climax point in his whole career, the most important decision he ever made. We're talking about the weight of the decisions he makes right now could weigh on him. And I'll compare it to, let's say, Demetrius Andrade, right? If you guys remember how Demetrius Andrade kind of stood on his soapbox and was trying to get the biggest fights, but you saw how the game blackballed him ultimately, right? Based on him deciding, I won't say deciding because people say he got blackballed. He sat out the game for like 2 years, damn near, over 2 years, a little give or take 2 years of no activity, just to come in now and just be this guy who it is what it is, right? Demetrius Andrade had a point in time when we thought he had all types of opportunities in front of him. It didn't work out. These decisions right now that Jerome Boots Ennis is making have a lot of weight on him, man. This is a real important time in his career. And we're just going to have to wait, obviously, and see what he does. We got to wait and see what he does. I mean, obviously, we know Vergil Ortiz has moved on. The next fight that he's about to get involved in right now on that same card, he's taking the opportunity. He's going to be on an international card, one of the biggest cards, what people are calling the best card ever made. They're calling this the best card ever made, right? That's a good card to be on. And Vergil's going to be on there, and he's going to be up in there with Israel Madrimov, right? Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov have pushed the button, and they're putting this fight together, and they're on the biggest card ever made on Turki Al-Sheikh. And I'm impressed with Vergil. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. If I were to sit here and tell you guys I'm not impressed with what Vergil Ortiz is doing right now, I'd be lying to you, right? Let me go in the chat a little bit before I switch up the game a little bit, because we're about to segue into another part of the conversation. We're going to switch up to the other side of the conversation between Vergil Ortiz and Jerome Boots Ennis. So we got to talk about Vergil Ortiz's side and where he goes on from here, right? Let me shout out to Bullet Gibson in the building. I already shout out Just Do in the building. Cornelius Burnett in the building. Salute to you. YG Knight, salute to you. Big Sarge in the building. Salute to you, King. DGO 0082 in the building. Salute to you, family. JR Spock, of course. J Pitt City. Yeah, let's talk about it. J Pitt City says Hearn sabotaging Boots. That's another part of the conversation. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but we'll talk about that. Why not? Let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about Eddie Hearn's. Let's talk about Eddie Hearn's role in this whole situation and how we should be looking at Eddie Hearn's. So, of course, Eddie Hearns is not one of the favorite promoters here stateside, right? Especially by our community, right? Let's be honest. Everybody's not the biggest fan. Me, I'm a great fan of Eddie Hearns. I think he's a great promoter. I think he has great intentions, and I think he tries his best. And I think he's, when you talk about promoters in the boxing space, he's one of the best. That's how I feel about it, right? But that's my personal opinion about it. But how is Eddie Hearns snaking Boots? I don't see how. I'll be straightforward with you and say I don't see how. I don't see how. I see him doing his job. I think Eddie Hearn has a very difficult job on his hands. He's dealing with a fighter right now who wants to unify in a division where none of the fighters want to fight him because they might literally be fearful of him. The only way he can get those fights to come together is by paying top dollar. Eddie Hearns has responsibility to his own company as far as Matchroom is concerned, as far as however he's working out with the DAZN, to give these guys a return on their investment. Keep in mind that Boots is not guaranteed to stay with Eddie Hearns. This is a partnership deal with a limited amount of fights, 3 to 5 fights. I don't know how many fights are on the deal, but Boots will already be on his 3rd fight with this fight coming up. So if it's 3 fights, he's on his last fight of the deal. If it's 5 fights, he has 2 more fights left on the deal, right? However you do the math, if Boots wants to become undisputed at 147, Eddie Hearns has to find a way to put this together. Right, obviously, he wants to do right by his fighter, but he also has to find a way for this to be a profitable situation. None of these fights are pay-per-view worthy as of yet, right? These have been free fights. Eddie Hearn has put Jerome Boots Ennis in Philadelphia 2 times to headline his own card, as well as Jerome Boots Ennis's fighters for his promotional company that he does run. I think Eddie Hearn is doing about as well as you would expect that he could do for Boots Ennis, who was coming off of a deal with Cameron Duncan, rest in peace, and a management or a promotional deal with Steven Espinosa, who right now arguably has no home. He seems to be working with the PBC or for the PBC, but has never officially announced himself to be in position with the PBC in an official way, right? He seems to be working, per event, right? That he seems to be working on per DM or per event, however you want to look at it. So he leaves there and he comes from nothing, comes from no activity, to a promoter who has given him 2 events in his own home city. Last time I heard there was events as big as the ones that Boots did in his city was what? Bernard Hopkins? Maybe not even him, maybe even before him, right? So how wrong is he doing Boots Ennis? How difficult is it for Eddie Hearn to put his finger on an opportunity for Jerome Boots Ennis, which he's offering him, which is Turki Al-Sheikh, which is 154, big paydays for everybody, but Boots doesn't want to do it. He wants to unify at 147. He's in a complicated situation. So now, Big Herm, I ain't going to lie to you. I just don't think that's what we're seeing. I don't think we're seeing Eddie Hearn screwing Boots. I think we might see Eddie Hearn putting some pressure on Boots. Maybe he is trying to convince Boots to go to 154. But look at the whole boxing space right now. Let's be honest. The whole boxing space is flipping on Boots for why? For not going to 154. So is it reasonable to argue that not only Eddie Hearn wants to put pressure on Boots Ennis to go to 154, but the whole boxing space wants him there? I don't know if I'm ready to point a finger at Eddie Hearn and say that he's screwing Boots over. I do think that Boots needs to be decisive. He needs to understand that until he gives permission to Eddie Hearn can't pull but so many triggers for him. And I think the boxing space is kind of like pointing all their fingers at Eddie Hearn because we want to keep Boots celebrated. We want to celebrate Boots. Nobody wants to call Boots a duck, but the conversation's coming up more and more, a little bit more clear as you see these opportunities. And when he puts out text messages or tweets like this, right? I've seen the rumors on social media just like y'all did. As far as a fight with me and Vergil, I was unaware of that alleged negotiations was being made on my end from here on out, right? This puts a magnifying glass on Eddie Hearn when he says from here on out, if it didn't come from me, capital M-E and capital M-E only, don't believe it. And I'll address it if I'm staying at 147 or moving up to 154 at a later date and time. That kind of puts the pressure. I get it, right? That kind of puts the pressure on Jerron Boots Ennis, right? That does put the pressure on, on Eddie Hearn. That puts the pressure on him and kind of makes you start asking questions as to what's going on, what's being negotiated. If Boots is not being made aware of these negotiations, then maybe Eddie Hearn is pulling something funny, right? But I got a hard time believing that tweet, Boots. I'm not going to lie to you. I find it hard to believe that you weren't aware that people were anticipating this big fight between you and Vergil Ortiz on the Rehab season card, right? I think Eddie Hearn tried to be as transparent with it as possible. If you look at all his interviews, he let it be known it's not final. We're still waiting on Jerron. Jerron has to pull the trigger, make up his mind where he wants to be. But, let's be honest, man. I don't think I'm comfortable with pointing the finger at Eddie Hearn just yet, right? But to each their own, You guys know how I play with the duck talk. I don't do it very easily. That's not what I'm going to do. Shout out to my brother, Ross Cott in the building. Shout out to all the zesty fathers involved in boxing. We're going to talk about that as well. We are going to talk about it as well. And we have to talk about it on multiple levels, right? Not just about Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson, but it seems like Senior always putting himself in the front of all the news when it comes to Schofield business, boxing business. Seems like he might have his name in some shady situations, right? We could talk about that a little bit later as well. 100%. Let's see here. Anybody else I didn't shout out? Sonny Augustine. Shout out to Sonny Augustine as well. Let me see here. J Pitt City, what'd you say? Vergil can't talk. He ducked Boots for many years. I'm okay with Boots pulling a reverse duck. I hear you, J Pitt. That's also part of the conversation, right? But like I said, at the end of the day, guys, we got to see what Jerron does. It looks like we already know what he's going to do, but you guys know my opinion where I stay on it. I think he should be at 154. It's definitely a free country. I want to go on record to say that I don't think Jerron Boots Ennis is legitimately ducking Vergil Ortiz as far as what I look as the definition of ducking, right? I'm from the old school. When I hear ducking, I'm thinking about fear. I'm thinking about avoiding confrontation. I'm thinking about avoiding a fight because you think you're going to lose. I don't think Jerron Boots Ennis checks any of those boxes. But I do think technically in a legitimate way, if you guys want to call him a duck, I understand where you're coming from with it. He is moving on an opportunity to have a fight. The fight is there for him to happen. He's already let the boxing space know that he's comfortable with moving at 154, that he feels like he'd be even better fighter at 154. We know that I hear some people talking about giving him only 2 months, 3 months, or whatever it is to move up to 154 is a lot to ask. That's nonsense. That's nonsense, bro. He's not cutting weight to go to 154. He's putting on weight. He walks around. He's a huge 147-pound fighter. That's not what it is. This is a question about whether or not Boots can let go of this legacy he feels he has in front of him at 147 pounds. Can he let go of that idea and just understand that that division is not very motivated to fight him? Not only all the across the street politics, the PBC and Eddie Hearn and all those different things that are going together, Top Rank, it just becomes a big mess. Whereas it seems like from the outside looking in, 154 pounds is wide open for Boots to take advantage of. It's going to be on him. It's going to be on him, and we'll watch it. We'll watch it as it comes together, right? What's going on here? Dry Turkey. It sounds kind of like Tank not wanting to go to 140. Man, BVO Boxing. Salute the BVO Boxing in the building. Boots messed up the church's money. Yeah, man. A lot of that. Boots is, man. And we'll talk more about it. I'm going to get through this because I'm going to open the panel up. I'm sure you guys are going to come up here and raise hell about it and give some perspective. So we'll talk about it more at that point. Right now, I do want to move on. We got to move on. We got to move it on. So Schofield's the Schofields push for the fight and succeed, right? Why did I put that here in the comments? Well, this kind of goes into, I've seen somebody say something about Gervonta, right? And this goes into when fighters really want to fight each other. Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson happens on February 22nd. That's what happens. That's what happens when fighters really want to fight each other. Shout out to Chris Brooks in the building as well. I see Chris Brooks in the building. Salute, King. Salute to you, family. Right? When fighters want to fight each other, they can, and they will. And Schofield Sr., as much as he has his names in all other type of conversations as well, but it's specifically in this conversation, he's showing the whole boxing space that all that across the street politics, all that management and handlers and all that nonsense that goes on about why fights aren't being made, that's just made up and that's a choice, right? That's not the way it has to be. That's just an accepted way and form of doing business in today's boxing space when you have a boxing fan base that doesn't push back at the narrative, that accepts it, that will push it and throw it in your face, right? The boxing fan will tell you in 2 seconds, you don't understand the business of boxing. They're not on the right side of the street. You clearly don't understand boxing. No, you've accepted a way of business being done as a legitimate reason as to why you, the fan, is not getting the fights that you want to get. Period. You've accepted it. And it's diabolical because it's almost like, I don't want to bring up Willie Lynch, right? But I want you guys to understand a conditioning, a tactic, right? When you condition the fan to accept something, then the fan will, on your behalf, check other fans when fans are pushing against that whole entire strategy, right? So if I sit here and I say Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, I don't care that Shakur Stevenson's over at Matchroom. If Tank wants to make the fight, there's nothing stopping him from making that fight. I'll get checked and be told that I don't know the business of boxing. Well, here we go. Floyd Schofield Sr. shows the world. Oscar De La Hoya shows up, responds to the whole entire boxing space and says, listen, this fight is not a fight I'm interested in. This is a 22-year-old prospect. He called his fighter a prospect. Shame on Eddie Hearn for trying to make this fight happen and Shakur Stevenson. You guys should be making other fights. Why are you picking on my little fighter? What Senior said, that's cute. That's adorable. I appreciate your point of view on this, but Oscar, do my bidding. You represent me. You represent my interests. I'm letting you know I want this fight and no other fight. And what does Oscar De La Hoya do? Say less, King. I don't agree with it, but you're the fighter. If that's what you guys think you want to do, let's get it done. And what ends up happening? Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson locked in for February 22nd on a card, once again, one of the biggest cards. People are calling the greatest card ever, which I don't know if that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I don't know if I want to say it's the greatest card ever, but damn it, it's hard to argue against it. You know what I mean? It's hard to argue against how big that card is. But listen, it's going down. Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson is locked in for February 22nd. This is what we have to look forward to. Guys, Shakur Stevenson finally gets tested by a fighter who's going to be putting pressure on him. Skill set wise, me personally, do I think Floyd Schofield is able to compete with Shakur Stevenson at the highest level? I think he has to at this point. The fight's already been penned in. I would give Shakur Stevenson all the edge on winning this fight based on his experience, based on what he showed us as far as his IQ is concerned. He doesn't seem to be in a different category than Floyd Schofield, but the fight is happening. You have to give both fighters that credit. Floyd Schofield for trying to be great, aiming at becoming a champion against one of the best fighters in his division. Some people would say the best fighter, if not the second best fighter behind Tank Davis. And of course, I got to give props to Shakur Stevenson. He's got all to lose, everything to lose in this fight and nothing to gain, right? If he loses this fight, he loses against somebody who shouldn't even been in the ring with him. A prospect, according to Oscar De La Hoya, tears down his whole entire market value as well as his standings as far as the most valuable fighter at 135 pounds, and losing obviously his WBC title if he does it, right? So he's showing the world that I'm not scared, I'm not ducking no smoke, I'm gonna make it happen. And us as the fans, we win at the end of the day getting to see a fight like that. And keep in mind that a lot of people are saying this is the weakest fight on that February 22nd card. Picture that, right? And but I think it's arguable, it's reasonable to argue that as well, because I'm be honest with you, that card is so stacked with so many fights. I can't even lie to you, man. That might be literally the weakest fight on that card, which puts perspective on the whole entire card in general. Shout out to Boxing Hacker in the building. Shout out to you, King, putting some color in the chat. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, man. Turkey said that amazing card will be 25. Oh man, salute to Dragon Ball Turkey, the real face of boxing. Boxing Hacker, man. Oh man. Yeah, man. You guys can't play games. Can't play games. You know what I mean? I'm not here trying to be the deliverer of bad news to the people who don't want to hear that kind of news, but that's the reality of the situation. Not only is this potentially the greatest card ever, this is what the space is saying. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I am going on record to say, damn it, it's hard to argue against that, right? It's hard to argue against that. But not only is he putting out one of the greatest cards that we've ever seen, but he's doing it for $25. Right? And obviously that's going to put a lot of other cards that come up in perspective. Into perspective. We have to be honest. Oh, look, let me take that back. We don't have to be honest. This is America. You are free to lie to yourself. You're definitely free to lie to yourself. This is your point of view. It's you got to sleep. You got to lay with it. You got to stay with it. It's what you want to do. Who am I to tell you what to do, right? But for me, can't even $25? Come on, man. I'm paying for it now, just in case. You know what you got to hope for? That this doesn't get messed up in any kind of way like the Netflix situation did, because I think the viewership on this one is going to be out of the stratosphere. The viewership is going to be out of the stratosphere. Who knows what kind of numbers they're going to hit with that price point and that kind of card? Who's not going to watch that fight? Who's not going to watch that fight, right? Shout out to Boxing Hacker. 100% agree with you, brother. There's no doubt about it, bro. Turkey's definitely moving the needle for us for sure, man. So back to Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson. This fight is locked in finally. There was rumors going around that the Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson fight might be on its own card. I don't know if you guys heard it. I had some inside sources saying that they were trying to coordinate something in Newark specifically for Floyd and Schofield to fight, for Schofield and Shakur to fight on that card. I heard rumors of Raymond Ford co-headlining, co-main eventing the card with the fight on there, but I guess they changed their mind, or Turkey, obviously, right? The money talks, everything else walks. Obviously putting the pressure on Shakur and Floyd to be on that Riyadh season card, and it just made the card that much more packed and stacked with talent, right? That's what we got to see. 1 second here. That's what we got to see here. It is what it is, but let's move on to another fight on this card. In actuality, we're actually going to break down this whole entire card because the fights on this card are going to be amazing, guys. Amazing. But Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov is locked in. Rumors going around that it was going to be Xander Zayas, that it was going to be Sebastian Fundora. We know Sebastian Fundora walked away from the fight saying that he wasn't interested in doing it. Most people are going to credit that to thinking that Sebastian Fundora is still trying to go ahead and negotiate a fight with Errol Spence, which I don't even know. I won't even begin to talk about that because I don't even see why that man would think that. He's staying inactive. In March, it will literally be a year since Sebastian Fundora has been in the ring with no word in sight. Only him, Errol Spence, the PBC, and God knows what they're coordinating to put that fight together. But that being said, walked away from that, and Xander Zayas accepted it, put it out all over social media that he accepted the fight, but it ended up being Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov that are going to be meeting up on February 22nd. I think this fight right here holds even more weight at 154 than Jerome Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz would have made up. Once again, Jerome Boots Ennis cheating himself out of an opportunity. I was going to say something. One person don't stop the show, right? I don't want to say nothing crazy and have the whole entire social media space going crazy. One person doesn't stop the show. Jerome Boots Ennis' presence not being there doesn't stop anything. It looks like Israel Madrimov coming off one of his biggest fights against Terrence Bud Crawford. When we're talking about a victory and a loss, it probably doesn't get any more HD clearer than that fight right there, being that Israel Madrimov walked away with a loss on this fight, but at the same time walked away with a moral victory, right? People seeing him compete with Terrence Crawford at the highest level, introducing and welcoming Terrence Crawford to the 154-pound division, was a WBA champion, 10 fights, I think 1 draw, 0 losses going into that fight. And ultimately competed with Terrence Crawford at the highest level to where some people thought that he won the fight. Not me, once again. I don't feel like he won the fight. But that being said, He showed the world, he showed me specifically that he's one of the best fighters at 154 pounds. Some people would argue to say that he's probably the number 2 guy in 154 pounds. You can argue Sebastian Fundora, who had a fight with Tim Tszyu, that we can talk about that another time, right? But outside of that, I would say you could put him at number 2, unless you want to put Bakram there off of his latest performance against Tim Tszyu. But I could promise you, before that fight he had with Tim Tszyu, Bakram wasn't being considered one of the top guys at 154, right? Israel Madrimov, one of those top guys, just coming off that fight with Terence Crawford, another Eastern European fighter. You guys know how I feel about these Eastern Europeans, what they're bringing to the game right now, the fundamentals that they're bringing to the game, that amateur background that they're bringing to the game. Serhii Bohachuk giving Vergil Ortiz all he could handle on his last fight, people thinking he lost that fight. But speaking on Serhii Bohachuk, let's bring this full circle a little bit, right, guys? Am I crazy, or is Israel Madrimov still competing with Serhii Bohachuk on this Tyson Alexander Usyk 2-fight card? Right? Crazy. Yes, RMP, yo, to Magnifico Vasquez. He did pass away. Shout out to Alonzo Spectacular, 100%. Rest in peace, man. Definitely, I heard about it. I don't know how he passed away, but I heard he passed away. 46 years old, right? Man, young guy, man. Rest in peace to him. Maybe, Alonzo, you want to put in the chat anything about him as far as what happened, or, you know, if you want to celebrate him, we could talk about him later. But also, shout out to Alonzo Spectacular. Shout out to you. Yeah, so, but Israel Madrimov is supposed to be competing against Serhii Bohachuk. And I've heard no words or no saying or no talk in the social media space or in the boxing space about that fight being called off. So as far as I understand, Israel Madrimov will be fighting Serhii Bohachuk on December 21st, and then fighting Vergil Ortiz on February 22nd, 2 months later. Incredible. Is that a fight that is that fight really locked in, though, if that's the case? I mean, because are we saying that Israel Madrimov is guaranteed to beat Vergil Ortiz? Will he even be able to compete 2 months later against Vergil Ortiz? That's 2 big fights back-to-back for Israel Madrimov. In so many ways, we need to be celebrating Israel. We need to be celebrating Madrimov, right? Let's be honest. What kind of fight schedule is that? Terence Crawford earlier this year, right? Going into Serhii Bohachuk on one of the biggest cards of this year, which is going to be Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. Then going into potentially the greatest fight card ever made against Vergil Ortiz. That's crazy. That's insanity. It makes no sense to me. No, it doesn't, Dry Turkey. It doesn't. It makes no sense. No sense to me. But look, if that's what it is and that's what we're looking at, then we're looking at somebody who's doing something very impressive in Israel Madrimov, but also in Vergil Ortiz, who seems to be ready to challenge himself again at the highest level, knowing that this last Eastern European fighter in Serhii Bohachuk gave him everything he could handle, and is about to come off this fight that he's about to have against Israel Madrimov. Right, that Israel Madrimov is not going to go on February 22nd. Vergil Ortiz willing to take that fight. You have to think that Xander Zayas would have been the easier fight to take. It would have been a big fight within its own right. Puerto Rico against Mexico, right? But he chose to go with Madrimov. You got to look at Turkey and ask yourself, is Turkey moving? And I'm not talking about giving Turkey props right now, but this might be that situation where they're talking about with Turkey, Al-Ashik. The matchmaking is very intense. You're going to make your biggest payday on a Turkey Al-Ashik card, right? That's what it looks like, at least, unless you're like a face of boxing like Gervonta Tank Davis or Canelo Alvarez, and you don't need Turkey to make your biggest payday. But any other fighter is going to make their biggest payday on a Turkey Al-Ashik card, but you're not going to get the easiest competition. You're not going to get cherry picks. You're not going to get that matchmaking that just, made to make you look great and, bring in cab drivers and tomato cans or cherry picks or whatever you want to call it, all the different names they call these type of fighters. You're going to get the biggest fight. Shout out to Jared Anderson, who I'm sure could attest to this. If he was right here in the building right now, I'd be like, yeah, bro, the biggest fights, right? He's going to get the biggest fight. And this Israel Madrimov fight is a kind of fight where if Vergil wins this fight, he puts himself right in the conversation with the biggest fight, just like Jaron Boots Ennis could have done, right? If he would have gotten to this fight, won this fight. Whoever wins this fight between Israel Madrimov and Vergil Ortiz is in the conversation to be in some of the biggest fights that could be possibly made at 154 pounds. You know what I mean? Madrimov on a prospect schedule. 100 J Pitt, right? Right? Yeah, Alonzo Spectacular says they will cancel the Baja Chuck fight, right? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a cancellation in that fight. I really haven't. I wouldn't be shocked if they did, though. If they did cancel it, I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't put somebody else in front of Serhii Bohachuk, and then we could talk about who Bohachuk would fight, if not Madrimov, knowing how Turki Al-Sheikh thinks it's going to be a fight that's going to be very competitive. What other fighter would they pull up to fight Serhii Bohachuk to make that fight on the 21st? And in the last minute as well. We're less than a month away. We're a couple of weeks away. So what last minute, more than likely it's not going to get canceled. More than likely, that fight's probably going to be what it is, where the Turkey hate is at now. Sonny Augustine, they're still there. They're just quiet. They're just quiet, but they're there. They're waiting on a mistake. As soon as something happens that goes wrong on this card or one of the events or something, they'll all come out. They'll come out deep. You'll see them all come out. They're just waiting, but they might be waiting for a long time because this man is on a roll, to say the least, right? He is on a damn roll, to say the least. To say the least. Didn't AB say, I'll have you fighting Godzilla? Yeah, I hear you, Cornelius. Nah, Turkey had you fighting Godzilla and Mothra and the three-headed monster. You'll fight anybody mess around with Turkey. Conwell should take the opportunity against Bohachuk. Conwell could take the opportunity. I could definitely see him taking the opportunity, Big Sarge. I think that'd be a great fight as well. I think Charles Conwell versus Serhii Bohachuk is a great fight. But if Conwell loses, though, I mean, look, it's an opportunity at a big payday. But 3 weeks. If Conwell's in shape and kind of been getting ready for an opportunity like this, then it works out. But if he hasn't been, then he's kind of like food, right? Because Serhii Bohachuk showed you in that Vergil Ortiz fight the kind of fighter that he is. Literally has 3 months to recover, but those Central Asian dudes are built different. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think if anybody could do a fight with a turnaround like that, it's an Eastern European, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Something sketchy about this super card. I predict 2 of those fights won't happen. Well, let me know what 2 fights you think won't happen, man. Yeah, 2 months, DJ, to go. Yeah, DGO, 2 months, 100%. 100%. Let's continue, though. Let's continue with the build, because I do want to open the panel up to everybody else in the building to get some of your opinions. Let's move on, right? So Turki Al-Sheikh announces the greatest card ever. I'll put a question mark there, even though, like I telling you guys, I think it's hard to argue against it. But, when people say big things like that, the haters want to come out and be like, there they go exaggerating. So I never took no time to really think about it and to go back in the cards that's happened in the past years to see if this is the greatest card ever. But I'll tell you this, if you're going to compare this fight card to another card, I don't think there's a fight that happened in the past 5 to 10 years that can match this card quality-wise. Maybe not like the main event. Maybe there's better than Better Beef Bivol 2. Maybe there's even better co-main events, right? But I'm talking about in an entirety, as far as a delivered production to you as a boxing fan. I think it's hard to argue at this being the greatest card ever. Let's go through the card. Let me find the dang card here right quick. Let's pull it up. Let's not waste no time. Let's see here what fights we're looking at here. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go. Is it on here? Am I tripping? Where the damn card at? I just had the card here, guys. I swear I had the card here. I'm trying to tell you I had the card here, man. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. There's no unboxing. Let's see if it pulls it up here. It's hilarious. You be thinking you have stuff put together, and then all of a sudden it becomes difficult to find, right? Like this card is everywhere, literally everywhere, and now it's nowhere to be found. Let's take a look at it here. Let's see here. What's this here? No kidding. That's what I pulled up. How come I didn't pull it up? Okay, cool. I found it. Let's get it done. I was literally on here and I didn't see it before, but listen, man, I ain't here to complain, right? Let's do it like this. Let's share the screen. Boom. Share. All right. Let's do it like this, right? Let's take a look at it here. So right here, we got the card for February 22nd. Headlining, obviously, Better Beef Bivol, which I think was a great idea. There were rumors going around that it was going to actually be Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker as a headliner. I thought it could possibly be, just because I know how Turkey feels about the heavyweight division. But, you know, even Turkey had to realize, and his matchmakers had to realize, how huge his Better Beef versus Bivol fight was going to be. So Better Beef and Bivol will be the headliner, as they should be, on this card. Hopefully Top Rank doesn't do what they did last time and try to take the headliner away and put it on for free on ESPN. Hopefully that's not what happens, but they are the headliner on this card. And then co-headlining Daniel Dubois with Joseph Parker. Right under them, Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, which you know is official. They put it on here. WBC lightweight championship on the line right there. Then we have Carlos Adames against Hamza Shiraz. Carlos Adames' WBC middleweight championship will be on the line. Hamza Shiraz to make his strike at greatness. Been doing a lot of great things in the middleweight division. A lot of guys wanted to see Hamza Shiraz in a championship fight. There were rumors of him and Janibek supposedly getting ready to be put together, but ultimately it got turned around, and it looks like Carlos Adames is who's going to be in the ring with him, putting his WBC title up. Great fight. Then you got Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov, Big Zele Zhang versus Ajit Kabayel, up-and-coming Ajit Kabayel getting his opportunity to shake the space up, right, guys? Ajit Kabayel been doing great things in the heavyweight division, especially through Turkey, who's been really showcasing him and putting him in some good fights. And listen, this guy's work rate, his body campaign, you nickname him the body snatcher, which is going to be interesting to see how Zele Zhang deals with that adversity, being that we saw how he was with Joseph Parker. And then here's the latest addition to that card, which honestly, if you guys aren't up to speed with UK boxing, this is a huge fight. People have been looking to see Joshua Buatsi get into a big fight. They feel like he's been kind of under, that he hasn't been showcased enough, right? He hasn't been putting those fights enough. Against Caleb Smith, you've seen Caleb Smith go against Better Biev, I want to say about a year or so ago. Caleb Smith obviously being stopped by Better Biev, but, you know, that's not to take shots at Caleb Smith. That's Better Biev, right? This guy had a 100% knockout ratio going into that fight. What are we thinking about this card? What am I thinking about this card, man? Listen, man, it speaks for itself. Every single fight on this card, and I want you guys to pay attention to something here. I want to try to pull it up here and see if I can get it to pull up here. One moment right here. This is a very important part of this card, right? Let's scroll it up. I want you to look right here, right? What do you see down here, guys? Is it me, or is every single promotional company tagged on this card? Boxer, Top Rank, Golden Boy, Queensberry, Gold Star, Sella, and yes, if you were wondering, PBC, and of course, Matchroom. All on the bottom of this card. Now, I don't know who the PBC fighter is on this card. Who's the PBC fighter on here? Is it Carlos Adames? I think it's Carlos, right? Carlos Adames is the PBC fighter. Is Carlos Adames a PBC fighter, guys? I think he is, but he's on this card regardless. All these names on this card here. This is what Turki Al-Sheikh is showing you the future of boxing is, ladies and gentlemen. He's showing this to you. And if you can't celebrate this, I don't know what to tell you guys, man. If you can't find something great and promising in the idea of a card this big being put together with all these different promotional companies putting some of their biggest fighters they have on their roster on this card, then I don't know what to tell you guys, right? It is what it is. Now, I spoke about these cards before, and I told you guys my opinions. I don't want to make too many crazy picks right now. I've got my picks. We'll talk about it another time as we get closer to the fight dates. We'll start breaking down some of these fights better. I want to get into just ultimately moving along with this curriculum, and I want to open the panel up, and we'll talk about Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov moving forward to see what that means. What I'm going to do right now is, the show's been going on about an hour. This has been a great show. I've been able to get right through it, get to my points. I'm going to put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to build. Was there anything I missed, guys? Did I miss anything? Was there something I was supposed to speak about that I didn't speak on? Let me see what's going on here in the chat. Is there anything I missed on? And we lacking on the color in the chat today. I know that. No love today. Let me see here. Only thing is, if Boychuk beats Madrimov, he fights Ortiz, or will Zayas step in? Dangerous fight for Madrimov. Raphael, I ain't gonna lie to you. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm saying to myself, if Bohachek beats Israel Madrimov, what sense would it make for Vergil Ortiz for him to go on 2 losses now off the back of a Terrence Crawford loss and a loss against Bohachek, and then get another opportunity to jump into a interim WBC title fight against Vergil Ortiz? I don't think it's far-fetched at all that Xander Zayas would maybe fill in, and that might be an opportunity for him to fight against Vergil Ortiz. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Xander Zayas isn't training right now, getting ready right now, and operating and moving forward as if he has a fight in February 22nd. I think that's very realistic that would happen, right? Oh, my God. Shout out to 8 with the 99 cents. Is that a super sticker? I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, 8. Thank you. Salute to you, man. Thank you for the support, man. Thank you for the support. Yeah, Raphael, for sure. Yeah, man. I think I wouldn't be shocked at all in the background if that's what Xander Zayas is doing right now, is training to get ready, because it's kind of weird. I'm sure I'm expecting more information to come out as we get closer to this Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk card about exactly how they plan on coordinating this on logistically, right? Just as saying that, it's kind of looking past Serhaj Bohachek, which I think is a mistake for anybody to make, right? Just to look past him would be insane. So it would definitely be interesting to see what the real game plan is. You would think they'd have something in contingency just in case this doesn't work out, right? Something to hedge their bets a little bit on that fight getting put together. Oh, here goes my guy, man. The scholar. Echo in the building. That's who I need to talk to. How you doing, Echo?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing real good, man. We're just going at it, talking about this boxing right now, building on this card, this February 22nd card, building on Jaron Boots Ennis, how he's looking right now with the decisions he hasn't made. To be honest with you, he still hasn't made a decision, but regardless, has gotten himself scratched off this card, the biggest card ever made. And talking about Schofield, obviously, and Shakur Stevenson being put together, and Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov, and all these fights. Where would you like to start?
Well, this card sorts out the boys from the men, doesn't it? Really?
Woo. They thought they were going to hurt Turkey. They were going to hate Turki Al-Sheikh in 2024, or they're going to hate him in 2025, huh, Echo?
He's just getting more and more braver with the cards as well, and putting the cards on that we want to see.
Listen, if you're a boxing fan and you can't celebrate this, then we need to quit. I think we need to start separating the boxing space a little bit. I think there's definitely a part of boxing space that is here for boxing, and then you have the other guys, right? There's the boxing fans, and then we're gonna call them the other guys, like the show, the TV show. We're gonna call them the other guys, right? We're not gonna be on the same page. We need to also respect their freedom and choice to be the other guys. And just understand that certain people we just can't get into these conversations with. It's just not worthwhile, because this card doesn't sell you. And did you hear the price point on the card, Echo? Did you hear about the price point?
$25, is it?
Right, and $20 in the UK, right?
£20 will be £20.
Right,
yeah.
Sorry, exactly, £20, right, in the UK. Man, come on, the price point, the stacked card. I mean, what else?
Pressure on the other people as well when they do their pay-per-views as well, because if you've got one person, say a big fight like Tank, for instance, and they want $80 or 80 or 50 or whatever, people are going to second guess that, and they're going to think, well, why would I even pay that when I can watch? There's 6 world champions on this card.
Insanity.
Have been 6 champions.
Yeah, 1,
and
2,
all
3, 4, 5, 6. You're right, 6. Yep.
And also the fights are not 100% who's going to win. There are a few that you may think somebody's a favorite, but for most of them, they're not they're not just givens because they've, somebody just turns up to get a check. It's not like that.
Right. It's funny. The weakest fight on this card is probably Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, but then again, right? What I believe about Schofield, you got to give him credit for taking the fight.
100%. You got to give him
And
credit, and you got to give Shakur credit, right? Because he has nothing to
yeah,
gain.
yeah. I mean,
You
it's
know,
not really probably a dangerous fight as he would see it, but I think Schofield taking that fight shows that he's got what it takes to go for the fights. Else he wouldn't. Because to be honest, let's face it, Clay, who's really knocking on Shakur's door to rush to fight him? Because he's a nightmare for anybody. I believe he's the best 135-pounder, personally.
100%.
It's just not done the job, or he's not fought the best way yet. And obviously the last few fights he's been injured. And if you've had an injury like with a De Los Santos, then you have another injury after that. That means you must, take care of that injury. And hopefully,
Right.
if he's not injured again, he should fight. He should win this fight comfortably, I think.
Right. Well, he had the surgery, right? Supposedly he got the surgery to the hand, so one can only hope that it healed right, and he feels good. Yeah, man. Nobody has stepped up. Nobody has stepped up to fight Shakur. And people can say whatever they want to say about him,
Of
but
course.
him and Jerome Boots Ennis are kind of in the same place to a degree for me, as far as just it seems like the best in the division always find an excuse or a reason as to why he shouldn't be the next fight. It is what it is.
You know what it is? When I hear, somebody saying that you don't want to fight, you don't want to do this, nobody wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, most people don't really want to take a test. That's what it is. And there's too many people around, saying, well, this guy's the best. Well, how can you be the best if you've not fought the best? Or the best that may be the best?
Right.
Because you don't know until you fight. That's fact. We don't know anything. We only can believe somebody's the best fighter.
100%, man. And it's just the eye test. And I agree with you when you say, when you feel, I mean, personally, I'm not too sure with Gervonta and Shakur, who's the best at 135. There's times when I say Shakur, and there's times when I say Tank. After you see Tank with a fight against Frank Martin, you can't help but be like, damn, Shakur just hasn't had the opportunity to have those kind of performances in a long time. The last time we saw Shakur have a performance like this has been such a long time. It's hard to take that away from Tank. And obviously you combine that with his sellability, his ability to sell on pay-per-views and put butts in seats, and this is popularity. You kind of lean in his way a little bit easier, but you can't throw away the IQ and the pedigree that Shakur Stevenson brings to the table. And it's hard to not put him in there with a Tank and say that that's a 50-50 fight. That fight right there, you don't know which way it's going to go. And that just gives Shakur Stevenson so many accolades within itself. Just understanding that a fighter like Tank Davis, you can't call it and just say Tank just beats Shakur. No,
I believe that Shakur can beat Tank. I really do. And one of the reasons, even his coach Kenny Ellis said, and the other coach said, "Why would you fight him?" They said, he's not the type of fighter we should fight, because they know the stylistic matchup is not the right for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm being a southpaw as well, because a southpaw knows another southpaw.
Right. Yeah, and Schofield's a puncher. You can never count out a puncher. A puncher is dangerous. A puncher is just dangerous. It is what it is. Raphael 32 says, "Nah, Reigns, Schofield versus Shakur is not the weakest fight on the card, in my opinion. And Schofield made that fight through social media. Shakur took the fight, 70-30 fight in favor of Shakur." I agree with you. I think it's when I mean the weakest fight, I think as far as competition wise, right? Like when you look at these fights, and we can go down through these fights and kind of break them down just a little bit. And, as we get closer, we'll get a little bit more focused on breaking down the fights. But when you look at Better Even Bivol, I mean, we don't even talk about that, right? Super competitive. When you look at Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker, a super competitive fight. Joseph Parker and Daniel Dubois coming in, having great years, comeback years in their own right. Daniel Dubois showing that the mind and the body has come together, right? Whereas we saw this physical person who's supposed to be very intimidating, but his mind was questioned as far as his strength. You know what I mean? He kind of answered those questions and checked those boxes. And you see Joseph Parker, who's just entered a second chapter into his career, him and Andy Lee working out great strategies on taking some of the most dangerous fighters in the game with Zhilei Zhang, and obviously what he did with Deontay Wilder, right? And then we go into Carlos Adames and Hamza Shiraz. Maybe that be another fight that you guys don't think is that competitive. I think it will be competitive, but I do obviously edge out Hamza in that fight. I think he has the chance. But Thomas has never been tested by Carlos Adames yet. Carlos Adames yet. This will be
That
his
is a good
first real
fight.
big test.
That is a good fight as well. That is a good
100%. And then Vergil Ortiz, obviously, against Israel Madrimov, 50-50. 50-50
Yeah,
to say the least. Some people might even
that is
lean
a good
towards.
fight. That's a
Right,
dangerous fight for Ortiz for sure.
right. And don't you
Because
give Ortiz like
it's styles. It's always styles, you know. It always is styles. It doesn't matter. You know, you might have a guy that can beat. You like. Let me give you an example. You might get a guy ranked number 5, and he can't become world champion because he can't beat the champion, but he can probably beat number 4. But somebody may be able to beat the champion, but not be able to beat number 6.
right. Stylistically, right?
Yeah,
Styles make
stylistically,
fights.
yeah. Like you've only got to look at Muhammad Ali with Ken Norton. It was it was basically the hardest fights they ever had. You know, where Ken Norton was destroyed by George Foreman. You know, Ali beat Foreman, then he beat Frazier, lost to Frazier, but styles make fights, and also the trilogy. You know, that tri thing doesn't work either. That doesn't work either. But stylistically, it's always like that. It is.
Right. And then you got Joshua
Is that Ray there,
Buatsi.
by the way?
Yeah, Ray's in the building. He's a little late, but he's on time. And then of course we got Coach Eddie with the camera on him. Salute to Coach Eddie with the camera on him. Bow, no doubt. And then you got Joshua Buatsi and Caleb Smith, who I think is an underrated fight. I think people don't follow UK boxing like they should. If they did, I think they would understand that this fight is a big fight. Buatsi against Caleb Smith is a big fight. A big fight for Buatsi, especially. He gets an opportunity to really make a statement.
You know what I'm impressed with more than with Schofield is not that he's fighting Shakur. He's fighting Shakur around, a young Shakur. He's not waiting for him to get to 35 or anything like that. He's fighting somebody that's not even in his prime yet or coming up to his prime.
Yeah. He's putting his money where his mouth is, man. He's been talking a lot for the past year, and he's showing the world like, I'm not just talk, man. I just need that contract. I ain't playing with you guys. Like, I'm dead serious. I really believe I'm like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, and I love it because I saw Senior get into a conversation recently where, he had to kind of defend his son. And usually usually I'm putting pressure on Senior as far as I think he's a little overactive as far as a boxing dad is, but I had to give him his respect in him defending his son this time around, letting the world know, like, you're not going to put no negative. We have the contract. You're not putting no negative mojo on this fight. You all could kiss my ass, right? Like, at the end of the day, my son has worked hard to be where he's at. We've been preparing. We know what we can do. We've been in the ring with these guys, sparring with these guys. We believe what we can do. And my son is going to shock the world. Not to mention the fact he was right when he said, why in the hell would my son pass up on his big payday and this opportunity to fight on the biggest card of the year? You guys aren't going to convince me that we're not supposed to be here. No, we're where we're supposed to be. And I appreciated his perspective. I'm going to fall back for a second, bring everybody else into the chat because me and you, Echo, will go forever. Shout out to Ray Davis, my co-host, who's been out the space, and Coach Eddie. I got a killer panel up here, by the way. This panel right here is serious. I don't think I'm going to add anybody else to it. You got to be special to get up on this one, bro. So I don't know who's going to hit the link, but you might be in the back for a little bit. I ain't going to lie. Depends on who you are. Ross Clark can come up here if he feels like it. But I don't know. I don't want to knock anybody. We'll see. Hit the link. We'll see. But I ain't going to lie to you. If you sit back there too long, you know what it is. How you gentlemen doing today?
Salute. What's up?
Doing good. What's good with you, Coach?
Hey, what's good? What's good? Salute to the panel. Salute to everyone on the panel, man.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm gonna walk you guys through the topics, right? Because I've had these topics, and there's some good ones. And this is the weekend wrap up show, so you guys might have been talking on different panels ever since Friday as these things been developing. But I haven't had the panel yet, and I think this is the one. This is the conversation that the boxing space is waiting on. So let's start off with what it is, right? Which is Duran Boots Ennis, right? Everybody mad at Boots. Everybody's mad at Boots. Top of the boxing news across the whole space. Boots has disappointed the whole entire boxing space. Boxing fans in an uproar. This man had an opportunity to be on this card, man. The weight of a victory on this card against Vergil Ortiz, we can't even fathom where Boots' career would go based on him going on this card. But look, he said, not for me, man. I want legacy at 147. I want to unify. This is what I want to do. And people are calling it duck. That's not my thing. I'm not the duck soup guy, but it is hard. I'm not going to argue anybody who wants to say it because, damn it, I can see why y'all disappointed. But I'm interested. Let's start off from the bottom corner. Let's start from Coach Eddie, bring it full circle back around.
Yeah, with the boots thing, man. To be honest, man, I think it's a lot of smoke at 154. 154 is like any given Sunday. Anybody can get cooked. There's no clear dominant guy at 154. They say it's Terrence Crawford. You just showed up, my man. I look. Shout out to Terrence Crawford. You just showed up. It's a lot of smoke at 154, and I think it was a business move and a strategy move. With Eddie Hearns, because like I say, that's risky. If you get up at 154, are you going to campaign? Are you going to campaign at 154, or is it just a one-off? Because once you get there, it's a lot of smoke up there, man. I mean, a lot of smoke. And I don't think Boots would have been a clear-cut guy at 154. To be honest, man. And that's where I'm gonna land mine. I ain't gonna take up too much time.
All right. But so just for the record, duck talk, or we're not gonna say duck talk, just gonna say strategy. How do you feel about it from the outside looking in? Where are you at with it with Boots? Are you duck talk, or at least are you disappointed in Boots or not? If you don't want to say duck, I understand, but how do you feel about Boots' decision?
It looks bad because the optics are bad, because this is a guy that you've been claiming been ducking you for 4 years. You've been claiming this guy been ducking. Now you opportunity because you look inhuman last time. And let's face it. Boots has a lot to work on, a lot of flaws, but we heaped all this praise on Boots. He didn't do it to himself. We hyped Boots up. And then when he didn't live up to the expectation that we put on him, now everybody's kind of jumping off the train. But this was a perfect redemption fight. This was your so-called Demetrius Andrade, David Benavidez fight right here to prove yourself. Now, Demetrius Andrade, that was unfair because you had to improve yourself against a guy, a monster. So that does, just because you lost to him don't mean you're a bad fighter. But this was your moment right here to show everybody that, hey, man, I'm the truth. Not only that, Vergil Ortiz had positioned himself for a Terrence Crawford fight, because if he goes out there and does something Majimov that Terrence Crawford couldn't do, now we got another conversation here. I did something that you couldn't do, Terrence Crawford. Fight me, or are you gonna duck me too? So Vergil Ortiz is put himself in a good position right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, amazing position by him. He needs to be celebrated in his own right, and we'll talk about him a little bit later for sure. Let's go over to Ray Davis. Salute, Ray. How you doing, by the way? Are you well rested, my brother?
I am good. I'm functionable. We good?
Oh man, I'm good, man. I'm here, baby. I'm here.
Right. All right.
You know
Check this, man. Listen, first of all, let me get that payday button real quick.
Payday. You want payday? I know.
Okay, that means that y'all need to start dropping some super chats, because I'm about to drop some bombs on this conversation. All right, number one, let's first look at the announcement that was put out there for Boots first Vergil. It was unofficial. It being unofficial means that there was no real contract negotiations besides an offer probably being sent, and there was a counter offer that was actually pushed back, saying they wanted to fight at 154. Let's go to the facts. That's number one. Number two, we have the performance of Boots Ennis in his last two fights that gave him the opportunity to open those gates at 147 to give him shots at other titles and other fights at 147, which he did not have this opportunity before, because, like Coach said, he was the boogeyman. He was the eye test. You understand? He was the guy that nobody wanted to fight. But now, because of his performances that he put up there, guess what? He laid an egg. Everybody's like, oh, let me open these gates up. Let me come out this flood and let me come test this guy, because I think I can beat him. Opportunity, right? Number three, all right. Why would he leave for the opportunity of 4 great fights for 1 good fight, right? And legitimately, I'm going to tie this to number 4, that he's going to give up his title, his championship title, to go get an interim title that does not guarantee him anything. It just puts him in line for something. And he's been there before. Let's look at his decision. If I've been there before, I've been with the IBF. I waited 2.5 years to get my opportunity to get a belt, and they handed it to me through the mail. I want to fight for my title. And if you're only going to give me an opportunity, and then maybe this guy decides he don't want to fight no more, or he fights somebody else, they get the title, they retire. Now I'm still on the waiting list to fight the champion. Do I want to do that again? Absolutely not. Last but not least, if you gonna call this man a duck, y'all better circle these wagons. Get back in that tank line, and you better call Tank a duck for that same shit that happened with Devin Haney. Because this is the same scenario. This is where everybody was like, Devin is a weight bully and Devin da-da-da. It's the same thing. Nothing different. Nothing. Finally, do you want to hold it? Do you want to hold the trap, like a strap, or do you want to hold the interim belt? Like at the end of the day, I know I mentioned it, but which one would you rather have? Because at the end of the day, like I said, that strap holds more value and it gives you more opportunity and you'll get the money because everybody's jumping. Oh, it's the money. Not everybody's about the money, y'all. The money is going to come. If I get 4 straps, guess what I do? I move up, and then I get the opportunity to make more money. And the fight's going to be there. Vergil's going to be there. Where's Vergil going? Did anybody see Vergil say he was going somewhere else? No, he's going to be there. Trust me. And when he get there, he better be ready. Now, yeah, it's a fight in their prime. I get that. The excitement of everybody being a boxing fan, the thrill is there. I get it. It's like Hulkamania versus Ultimate Warrior. I get it. But guess what? At the end of the day, Hulk Hogan still got some fights over here with Ric Flair. You got some fights over here with Bret Hitman Hart. You know what I mean? There's still some fights there left for him. So he's going to get called a duck for running from there. So which one is it? I mean, y'all pick your poison. I'm landing the plane, as Coach said. So on you,
salute to Ray, man. Good points, man. Good points. And I got a question for the panel too. After Echo builds on this topic a little bit, interesting, and this in reference to as far as him vacating his belt or being stripped of his belt. I'm interested in like what I want somebody land a plane on exactly how that works and what that looks like. But Echo, go ahead. How do you feel about this whole entire boot situation at this point?
Right, I'm not saying he's a duck because we don't know that. We don't know that. But the thing is, I really believe this is what I believe, that it's the belief within himself and the belief within the team. Sometimes stop fights. And if you think about it, we all have a certain values that we have to live by. And if you really believe you've got, the potential to do really well, okay, you'll expect good results. If you expect good results, you'll have a healthy attitude towards what you're doing, whether that will be moving up in weight or not. And if obviously the attitude will give you the actions. If you've got all those things backed up, you'll take the right action. Because if you think about it, Clay, before you started your show, right, you knew you had the values that had to be there, hard work. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you believed you had the potential to start a show.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you believe you've got a chance to make a great show, you expect good results. Now, regardless of what results you get, that will give the attitude to carry on and take the right actions to produce more videos and do more podcasts. It's the same thing with the boxing. Same thing. There's no guarantee that Boots really believes it could be a good at 154, especially when he saw Crawford. And this is where the limiting beliefs lie, because your limiting beliefs are where you will really test yourself. It's like a table. If you've got one leg missing off a table, the table's not strong. Those legs on the table are beliefs to reinforce the strength of the table, which gives you the roots to having all the mental capacity to achieve anything. Without those core values and that belief and them expectations, that attitude, you will not take any action. Same as if you didn't believe you could be successful, you wouldn't have a healthy attitude towards doing videos. And you wouldn't take any action anyway, because you think, well, why bother? But the thing is, once somebody becomes successful, there's a belief that they've got a belief of potential, all right? Now, they'll do something, they'll take a fight, and they'll get a certain result. Now, that certain result will reinforce their belief of their potential. And then they'll start taking action again. So that's what you could call that the cycle of success. So basically, they believe in the potential, they take action, they get a result, which reinforces their belief again. One bad fight can change all that. And it puts people back to the drawing board, thinking, well, I'm not that as good as I thought I was. But the real great fighters, I'm not going to mention names, but they didn't even know they were even good. They just believed in themselves and they were willing to take the risk. Like Henry Armstrong, he went from featherweight to welterweight, went back down to lightweight, went back up to middleweight. He didn't win the middleweight title, but he had a draw. But the thing is, he never knew that he could win the welterweight title. He just believed he could. Because nobody knows anything, really. Nobody really knows what they can do until they try.
Right. I agree.
And this is the problem. People are not putting it all on the line. They're not really daring to be great, like you've said. You know what?
What's interesting about everything you're saying, Echo? What's interesting is, and a question that everybody should ask themselves is, where's the greatest challenge lie for Boots? And people don't speak about that enough, because although there's legacy at 147 and the opportunity for him to unify and become undisputed, maybe, which will be another question I also am going to bring up to the panel today, as far as the likeliness that you guys think of Boots actually becoming an undisputed champion at 147. Him unifying, I think, is likely at this point. I do think Brian Norman Sr. is interested in making that fight with his son and Boots. That gives him an opportunity to unify. But in all, just being realistic, when you think about the landscape as far as Mario Barrios being a champion and Stanionis being a champion, those two guys being PBC fighters, what is the likeliness that this goes smooth for Boots, that he becomes undisputed at 147? But what's interesting, what you were saying before, is the challenge, right?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge.
Right, and you talk about the mark of the greats, right? That the greats challenge themselves. They step into
situations. Benitez was 17 when he won the title, when he beat Antonio Cervantes in 1976. When he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, he was only 21. Sugar Ray was 23. That was two greats coming together.
100%.
And remember, Leonard was a welterweight, where Benitez won the junior middleweight title from Cervantes in 76 when he was 17. So he went up another weight. So I mean, this is where greatness lies, in taking the chances and really stepping up. Just like
that's interesting.
All the greats have done this. I can go on and on about dates and God knows what and whatever, but it just seems that people just don't want to risk losing, especially as of today, or nowadays, because of the Mayweather effect. To keep that zero, which is ridiculous, because people had 72 fights. Like Willie Pep had 72 fights before he lost. Then he went to another 67 without a loss. So that 50-0 is bullshit, really.
Right. 100%. I agree with you, and I think that's what the conversation is really, because I think it comes down to, when we get past the silliness of it all, why are they mad at Boots? Well, they're mad at Boots because they think Boots had an opportunity to challenge himself, and they feel like he decided to stay at 147 because he knew or felt like it's less of a challenge for him to compete at 147 and get those titles, rather than step up into an uncomfortable situation at 154 and compete at a higher level, risking risking legacy not being there, right? Like, he's looking at it potentially like 147, although those fights aren't as difficult as what I'll fight 154, these belts and these accolades, I'm saying, do something for my for the history books, and helps me as far as being recognized generation to generation as far as accolades are concerned. But I think the boxing space really saw that Vergil Ortiz fight as being the first fight that he was going to get that was actually going to legitimize him as what a lot of people saw. And I think you have a combination of haters who are like all saying that he's a hype train and that he hasn't done nothing, and also a combination of fans who thought this was going to be an opportunity for them to finally be able to rub it in the face of the haters, like, I told you. And it seems like Boots took away from both sides, and that's why it looks like the whole boxing space is pushing back at him in a universal way. You see the haters and the fans are holding him accountable, right? The haters are saying what they're saying, but the fans are just like, you're leaving us looking so messed up out here. Like, we've been talking you up all this time. We finally have an opportunity. We finally get this opportunity to rub it in these dudes' faces and let you know that Philly's in the building, and you walked away from us. You walked away from the opportunity, and in so many ways, you left us hanging dry, man. But let me ask you guys a question, right? Let me ask the panel a question. I want to know, does anybody on the panel understand the dynamics of this whole entire IBF belt vacating or dropping off structure? What does Eddie Hearn mean when he says if Boots goes up to 154 pounds, that also aligns with Boots vacating, dropping, or being stripped of his IBF title at 147? Does anybody have any perspective to add to that point?
So because it's a short notification of going to fight, they didn't have any negotiations with the IBF after they can retain the title, if they can come back down or anything like that. Plus, we also know the IBF is very fishy. They were the first one to strip Bud, the first one to strip Canelo, the first one to strip gentleman Charlo, right? And other, yeah, exactly. So stripping all these guys, right? That says right there, like, hey, we're not playing with you. You're here to represent our belt. You're here to compete at the highest level, have a 10-pound rehydration, and you're supposed to make this weight. If you move up in weight, that means that you're going to be at another weight and another disadvantage. You are not able to represent us. So why are we going to let you hold on to our belt? That's number one. Number two, no negotiations set. Nothing said to them in talking, and enough time to get that out there to say, hey, you know, we take this fight up here. Are we able to come back down and defend our title? You know, we're going for interim, even though it's not a real championship. It takes me out of line, you know, any other championship contentions up there. Can I please have the opportunity to hold on to my belt, come back, defend it? Or if I can't defend it here, may I get the opportunity to fight at 54 for the IBF, since there's no 1 and 2? Those are things that have to be negotiated. And because none of those things are being negotiated, and it was such a quick return on that contract, guess what happened? He chose to take the latter and say, hey, I'm going for legacy. Like I said, the money's going to be there. And Turkey wants this guy to fight, right? The money's going to be there. We already see the fight negotiation happen with Conor Ben in Barrios. So if that fight goes down, guess what? I got my money. I hate to say it, I got my money on Conor Ben. And I think that's both Eddie fighters right there going at each other. And that's a great fight internationally. And that's just as much of a dangerous fight as it is with Vergil. I think Conor Ben is a very dangerous fighter for Boots Ennis. And it could expose things. We'll see how that. But if he gets a strap, guess what? That's another unification after he fights Brian Norman. So now that's 3 straps. Now we're just waiting on standing owners. Does standing owners take the bait? Does he go for the opportunity to become undisputed? Or does he hold off? And Boots say, you know what? You're going to hold off? I got 3 of the titles. I have the opportunity to move up now. I got the WBO. I can go challenge for that. I got the IBF. There's an empty slot there. I got now the WBC. Why can't I go there? So all these things can play into his part just by moving the chess pieces the right way. You guys are living on a quarter-mile track instead of playing NASCAR. Hate to say it. You know what I mean? Do those 600-700 miles, man. Then become the victor. Don't sit there and let's just get in there. Let's just pop rock. Boom, pause. I know people going to say that. You know what I mean? Get that nitrous going in the engine, and then boom, quarter mile, we're done. Race over. Let's see this race in endurance. Let's see how it plays out, because time tells everything, and we're not going to know if we're rushing people to do certain things that we want to be satisfied with. I'm not saying wait till he's 35 either, so don't get me twisted. I don't want to see him at 35 and Vergil at 35 fighting. This needs to happen within the next year or year and a half. But let it take its time to develop. It's going to be a better fight. I promise you.
Right. So, I mean, just to kind of come full circle to the point, as far as that IBF title vacating or being stripped, you think the IBF is actually threatening Boots with losing his belt, or do you think it's Boots? Like, do you think the IBF is involved in it like that, where they're threatening Boots potentially losing his title at 147 if he competes at 154?
IBF has been the only one playing fair with these boxers and their sanctions. The only ones. Everyone else, Clay, have been having their favorite fighters take off, fight whoever they want, go fight a lower contender. The IBF said, "Hey, you're not fighting your mandatory. It's our belt. Hey, you're not going. You're not fighting. Period. It's our belt. You're not unifying. It's our belt. Got to give it up, right? They're the only ones doing this. Everyone else out there is allowing these fighters to do it. WC, WBA, WBO. They're allowing their fighters to make moves and make these jumps and leaps. The IBF is a very strict sanctioning body. We have to respect what they do. A lot of people hate it because they think they strip people too soon and things of that nature. But they just want people to fight their mandatories. They just want people to fight their fights. And that's what boxing is about. Bringing the best to fight the best. If we're not getting that, the IBF is saying, hey, we don't need you. You know, that's what you're here for. We want you to be that guy that represents us and go claim all those other belts and be the top of the totem pole, starting with us, because you're our representative. You're our champion. I have to see how that works out. What's up, Doc? What's going on, Bruce? Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to see how this works out ultimately. We can say 33 cans. I can say that's incorrect because I already told you last week, and no disrespect to Big Ups, but what do you see different for Vergil Ortiz that you didn't see for Roman Villa? Please tell me. Somebody put it in the chat. Please tell me what you don't see different, because that fight's going to go exactly the same. It's going to go 100% the same. And I'm telling you, you're going to be sitting there like, damn, why did I even watch this fight? This is a waste of my time. So let Vergil get his skill up. And if I'm not mistaken, y'all, and I don't really want to get off topic, didn't Vergil put out a video last time they asked him to fight Boots? And he said, yeah, probably in the next 5 years or something like that. Am I not mistaken? Yeah, he did.
You're correct. You did say that.
Right. So does he really want to fight Boots, or is he just going in it for the money? We got to ask ourselves that question also. So I think at the end of the day, we really have to sit there and evaluate the IBF on what that decision would have been. I think Eddie Hearn has a little bit more information on that type of business than we do. I mean, I can Google and search it myself, but I think he would have got stripped on the IBF, or he would have somehow had to pay like some type of fine.
I think he definitely would have. He definitely would be paying sanctioning fees without a doubt, but I'm not too sure about the IBF actually threatening Boots with vacating or stripping that belt. I don't know. I got to find out more information. But I definitely appreciate the perspective. I'm gonna move on well, actually, let me pull in Ross Scott in the building as well. Salute, Ross Scott. How you doing, family?
What's going on, man? Salute everybody. Salute Echo, Ray, the other brother. Salute. Chilling.
No doubt. So I'm going to bring you in a second, Ross. Let me let Coach Eddie build on this topic a little bit. And the topic is does anybody have anything to share as far as their perspective on the idea that Boots would have to vacate this 147 IBF belt if you were to compete at 154? Is he vacating versus being stripped, or is he being threatened with it being stripped from him in versus vacating? Because I think words play tricks on our minds, and I don't know if I heard Eddie Hearn say he would be stripped of his title. It did sound like, I think I heard him say he'd be forced to drop the title or vacate the title, which I think is a difference between that and being stripped. So does anybody know of any of the rules or anything in reference to the IBF in particular as a sanctioning body threatening Boots to lose his IBF title if he were to compete at 154 for another title, an interim title, but another title within itself? Coach Eddie, do you have anything to share on this topic?
Go ahead, let Ross Clyde. I'm making a payment on the phone real quick.
Oh no, I got you, brother. Go ahead, Ross Clyde. Any perspective on that you know of?
I didn't hear. Go ahead. What did you say?
Well, do you know anything about the IBF stripping Boots, or Boots? You know, Eddie Hearn's talking about if Boots goes to 154, that the 147 belt would be in danger that he currently has. Is that true? Do you know how that works?
I don't know if that's true, but I think it's just unfortunate that Boots is in a situation, unfortunately, where there's just nobody there for him to fight. I mean, even if he vacated the title, I don't even know who's there that's gonna fight for this free belt. Like, it's such a weak division. And I always said he doesn't have to move up to 154. But at this point, it looks like he got to. in order to have some type of legacy. Because outside of Barrios, there's nobody there for him to fight that's worth talking about. Like nothing significant at all. But I think also he's in this hard situation where, dang, I just came off of a hard fight, and now you guys want my very first fight to be against Vergil Ortiz, who is one of the best guys there, and he's more established at 54 than I am. So it's like he's in a bad place. I would say go up to 54, take an easy fight to get established with the weight, and then move on from there. But I don't know about the vacating the belt. I don't know about that. I mean, if he's going to leave, yeah, he should leave, get rid of the belt. I think they all should do that. If they leave a division, they should drop the belt.
Yeah. I think personally, I'm not too sure about that. It just seems more voluntary to me. It sounds like, and like I said, words are, that's why they said they're spells, right? The way you spell a word, it's like spells. It's like they're tricky. I think vacating, dropping, those words are different than stripping. And I think we're talking about more of a voluntary situation potentially, where Boots might feel like if he goes to 154, he's not coming back to 147 because he doesn't want to deal with the going up and down in weight, especially with a rehydration clause attached to the IBF belt. He would want to maintain his 147-pound status, his routine, however he's preparing, however his nutrition's going, however he's carrying himself to be the best version of himself the night of a fight, where he has to be inside of 10 pounds of the weight division the morning of the fight. He probably is just making a conscious decision for himself to say, if I go to 154, ultimately, this is how I'm going to 154. It's all in. It's all or nothing. I'm not playing the games. I'm not going to 154, compete right quick, and then come back and be stuck under some rehydration clause to defend my title against some mandatory. I'll stay here until I'm ready to leave for real, is what I'm hearing from Eddie. But I'm not too sure. Once again, just putting the question out to the panel. I mean, if Echo wants to tap in as far as the IBF's position on Boots Ennis competing at another weight class division and him still keeping his status as an IBF champion at 147. Do you have anything to share on that, Echo?
Not really. I mean, I can just add what Rasclot and Ray said. He's got really nowhere to go, and also, like I said, it's based on his belief as well, whether he can do well at that weight. And if he does go up in weight, he's got to make sure he does it right as well. It's not so easy just to put on a few pounds. Because most people put on water weight anyway. So, and if you put on proper weight, muscular weight, through the right exercise, what you call myofibrillar muscle, which is more contractual muscle, it's very difficult to lose that again and go back down in weight. So he's got to make sure that he doesn't do it wrong. And as Rasclot said, he's got really nowhere to go. Only Barrios really is the meaningful fight that he could actually take. I don't think any of the other fights are really going to do much for his career, to be honest.
No doubt. Let me take a moment to shout out JR Spock. I appreciate the $5 holla. All praise to Ray Davis and Claymore Rain, the best in the game. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you. So yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm not too sure. I have no, like I said, I don't know about anything legitimately on paper as far as rules are concerned, as far as guidelines or bylaws are in the sanctioning body, the IBF sanctioning body rules that get in the way.
They're just more strict than anybody else, like Ray said.
That's a fact, right? That's what I do know. Like Ray was saying,
they will do anything
right now. I just posted it in the private chat. The rules and sanctions. I believe it's going to be under IBF. It's going to be on page 10. It kind of explains some of this, and I believe it says unsanctioned contests and champions and things like that. It's pretty deep. Starting from the top of the page, it's very possible he loses his belt without notification. So the rules are the rules, right? And the sanction and the IBF is very stern when it comes to their rules in defending their title.
Yeah, as you said, look at Canelo and the others. They didn't think twice, did they? Look at Charlo. I mean, they didn't give him much chance, really.
Yeah.
I never seen anybody get stripped of belts quicker than Charlo. That dude lost everything. Like within, he was like bang, 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 bang. I said, he went bankrupt overnight. He lost all his belts. It's crazy.
I consider Charlo still the king because he never lost the title. So I still consider him king of 154, but he's been out of the ring a long time. So I'd like to see him come back, to be honest. Both Charlos, to be honest. I'd like to see both Charlos to come back.
Let me ask you guys this: if it's not, if the IBF sanctioning body doesn't have a rule in particular that puts his title in danger, and if the reality is that Boots and his team are just making a decision that they're not going to go to 154 unless they plan on officially campaigning at 154, does that put perspective on the decision he made? In other words, does that remove the duck jacket and make a little bit more sense? Is that a legitimate reason as to why he shouldn't go compete with Vergil Ortiz at 154? Is in reference to him not wanting to cut the weight to go back to 147?
If he did cut the weight, it'd more likely be water weight. So you can lose 7 pounds, Clay, in one day if you do the right protocol with the bath and the Abilene and whatever, the Epsom salts. You can lose. I mean, I've had a fighter that I trained lose 12 pounds in one day, so it's not a problem. It is water weight.
So I mean,
but if he puts pure muscle on, like I said, the myofibrillar muscle, then he'll have to lose that, and he will lose strength. That's what happened to Roy Jones when he went up to heavyweight, went back down. It didn't do him any good because it wasn't pure water weight. It was more myofibrillar muscle. Myofibrillar muscle, you can contract that. Where sarcoplasmic muscle, which is more like water weight, or because muscle is 75% water, so 72%. So if you build the muscle up, like bodybuilders, a lot of bodybuilders are not that strong, but they've got big muscles. And if you look at the boxers nowadays, they're doing powerlifting training like deadlifts and things like that, which puts on pure myofibrillar muscle and squats and things like that. And doing plyometrics and things of that nature. That's why it's very difficult for boxers to go up and down in weight like nowadays than they used to do years ago, where it wasn't like that, where weight training wasn't predominantly in boxing. Very few boxers did it in the 60s and 70s, so
they fought at their own weight, their natural weight, so it was easier to go down. I mean, lose a few pounds here and there. That's too risky playing that up and down rule, playing the elevator, as I say, in the weight classes. Once you start playing that game, you have risk of losing everything, hurting yourself really bad, getting concussed. All those type of things can happen. We really have to be careful when we make those decisions to play like that in those arenas, especially in that square circle, because you're constantly getting hit in the head, and that membrane that you have between your brain and your skull. That gets thin because that's all liquid. So once you start draining weight that's unnecessary, or water rather, as Echo would say, that can cause a lot of problems with your consciousness.
But when you rehydrate, your brain is the last thing to hydrate.
Right, 100%. Which is why I think some of these fights we see the way they turn out, like with Devin and Ryan, I still believe that was a bad weight cut that kind of had him as punchy as he was looking in that fight. But 2 cents here says Boot deserves an opportunity to build up and cut to 54 as well. And I understand what he means. In other words, most of these fighters fighting at 54 are probably walking around like 190, 180.
Yeah, but it's water, Clay. It's fat and water. It ain't muscle.
Right. So you don't think that he should be able to
pound on in a week if you eat loads of carbs and some creatine and whatever, you can easily do that.
So do you think that? So you think like at the end of the day, what it sounds like you're saying, Echo, ultimately is that's not a good enough excuse. Like that's not that complicated. It's only a couple of pounds.
190 pounds in between fights. I mean, Duran used to do that. I used to weigh 180 in between fights. I used to eat and drink and whatever. But for most athletes, that's not a good look. You only got to look at, the people that keep themselves in shape, like Mayweather, Crawford, Canelo. They never look out of shape, really. But the thing is, I mean, you can put on weight, you can put on a stone, and it might not even be fat. It could be just water.
Right.
Because carbohydrate, every gram of carbohydrate takes in about 4 to 5 grams of water. Same as salt, that takes in water as well. So you have a lot of salt, have a lot of carbohydrate, you're going to weigh more. So the scales don't tell the whole story. That's why people, talk about, like, for instance, Devin Haney. You look at him when he's doing his you know, the 24/7 things. You know, when they're watching, if you watch him eating, he's not eating a lot of carbs. He's eating mostly vegetables and a few asparagus and some chicken, maybe some fish, whatever. He ain't bunging in loads of carbs because he can't do it because he'll just put weight on.
Right.
You cut out carbs, you lose weight. Simple as that. Because
I think
it binds with water.
I think it's definitely an interesting point of view as far as the reasonings behind. I think, you know, like I said, Boots saying that, you know, he'd feel more comfortable at 154. He'd probably be more, you know, more strength, a better version of himself at 154. So, but now we're hearing a little bit more of maybe there's more time needed, that, you know, the process is more tedious than we might want to anticipate or embrace. You know, that's why I say these fighters, when they speak at these post-fight press conferences and right after the fights, they seem so motivated to please the fan base and please all the you know, I mean, the boxing space as far as what they're going to do next. And they speak a little too quick, right? A little prematurely speaking into, you know, how optimistic he is about 154. Then he gets confronted with a 154-pound opportunity. And I bet you even the matchmakers over there at Riyadh probably saw that and probably took that the same way as the fans did. Like, oh, he's finally ready. Well, let's put something together. We've been waiting on him. And, you know, that's why Boots does have to take ownership of the way he looks in this situation. He has to take ownership on it. I think the tweet that he put out about, you know, not knowing about the negotiations and kind of making Eddie look bad, I thought that was a bad tweet. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think it put Eddie in the best light, being that Eddie already doesn't get a lot of respect stateside. They don't like him. They feel like he's a threat to the way of boxing here in America, which I think is hilarious. But at the same time, you know, they give him so much flack by putting out a statement like that. It does kind of just look bad, right? It just looks like instead of just owning it and saying, you know what, I want more time, period. You know what I'm saying? This is not on Eddie. This is me and my team deciding that we're not going to 154 yet. We still got things we want to do at 147. We need more time to make a decision. Time's not on our side, so we're passing on this opportunity, allowing the card to move forward without us. Good luck to Vergil, whatever he's going to get done, and, you know, we'll be letting you guys know what we plan on doing in the near future, and leave it there. You know, he kind of went into another realm where it kind of looked like something might have been getting coordinated behind his back, and just wasn't a good look for his team.
You know, the biggest problem is putting the weight on wrong. Even Holyfield, he got Lee Haney training him. He had Mackie Shieldstone who helped him with his conditioning. He did it right to go from cruiser to heavyweight. He did it the right way. He didn't just do it, you know, like in a few, you know, just decide I'm going to fight heavyweight next week or anything like that, or next month. It wasn't like that. And anybody nowadays, they're going to do it right, especially when they're doing more weight training nowadays. It's different.
100%. I put on the screen right here, did Jerron and Eddie try to bring Ortiz Jr. down to 147 pounds? What do you feel about that as far as the how people feel about, you know, them trying to supposedly get Jerron and Eddie supposedly trying to get Vergil Ortiz to come down to 147. Everybody's saying, like, listen, man, we all know that he had like literal medical issues. His career almost ended trying to stay inside that weight class. That was kind of disingenuous and lack of honor and integrity, shameful a little bit, to offer Vergil Ortiz a 147-pound fight, knowing that the issues he had. But I also want to add to it, just so you guys can take this into consideration while you're speaking on it, to say that Eddie Hearns did address it and say that it wasn't him. He wasn't the one who sent out the offer. That this is actually a third-party offer that was put probably by the Turk. I'm assuming by Turki Al-Sheikh's team, by the people who coordinating the Riyadh season card, them offering both fighters an offer, saying that this is what they received, that they got an offer from this third party, and the offer said 147 on the contract, which obviously Boots and Eddie had no reason to turn that away. If that was a fight that Vergil wanted to do, why would they not accept that? That puts them, like I said, they get their cake and eat it at the same time. I get to stay at 147. My title isn't in jeopardy, and I get a big payday and a big fight with Turki Al-Sheikh. But the space seems to feel like Ortiz Jr. being asked to come down to 147 was a horrible thing. What do you guys think about it? I'll start off with Ross Clott and come back full circle. Ross Clott, you want to speak on this? Are you available?
What you say?
In reference to Eddie Hearn bringing Jerron Ennis and Eddie Hearn asking Vergil Ortiz to come down to 147 to fight him, but considering that Eddie said that that's not what happened. Eddie said that they got the offer at 147. You know, we got to remember there's a third party in this situation. It's not Eddie sending out the offer, and it's not Vergil Ortiz's team sending out the offer. It's whoever's coordinating that Riyadh season card that sent out the offers. But what do you think about that? As far as, should we hold that against Jerron and Eddie as something they tried to do, like they were scared of going on 54, or is that just something we're missing in business?
I mean, it looks like that they're more comfortable fighting at 147 because they know that Vergil Ortiz had that issue, right? He had that issue at 147, so he had to move up, that little health scare. But at this point, it's looking like it's all in Boots' corner. It's up to him. He just got to go on ahead and move up to 54. I mean, at the end of the day, we all could see how big this kid is. I mean, he's a big dude fighting at 47. This isn't the same day weigh-in anymore. That guy could easily fight, probably would have fought at 160 if he fought in the 80s. So I think he needs to just go on ahead and move up. Because before, like I said, I didn't have no problem with him staying at 47 if the opportunity was there to become undisputed. But it looks like that opportunity is not there, especially with the 2-3 fight deal that he got going on with Matchroom. So he wouldn't even have time to get it. It wouldn't happen. So got to go up to 54. It seems like that's the stacked division right now. Well, while 47 seems to be the weak division, because 47 usually is the more stacked division, and 54 is kind of lingering on. Now it's the opposite. So, yeah.
And Coach Eddie, how do you feel about that whole entire weight draining situation? And that's funny. You can even segue into the weight bullying situation, because Ross Collins definitely spoke on it a lot about these fighters weight bullying. And you know, people could argue that you know, Jerron is offering weight bully, checking the boxes a little bit at 147. But what do you feel about them trying to bring Vergil Ortiz down? Do you think that's something Jerron and Eddie were strategically trying to do, or do you think this was just, you know, a mishap with Turki sending a contract that's saying the wrong things on it? I think Eddie's kind of caught up. Okay, what about, we'll move on to you, Ray. What's up with you?
Yeah. So I want to push back a little bit on what Roscoe said, but I do agree. I'll start with the agreement is that I do believe Boots is too big for the division. I think it's time for him to move up. I do disagree about the opportunity for him to fight these fighters. That floodgate has opened. Him having bad performances has given him the chance for become a lineal champion, or as we would say, a champion of unification, at least at 147. Opening those gates allows him to get those fights. He's definitely going to get the Conor Ben fight if he does beat Barrios. It's going to be there, and I do believe Conor Ben beats Barrios. That's going to be a unification. Both guys on the same side of the street. No problems making that fight. Rather, people believe Eddie Hearn is doing it for Barrios. I'm sorry, for Conor Ben, or he's doing it for Boots. That's yet to be seen. But it leaves us with a great opportunity, because now we got opportunity for a 2-belt unification on 3-belt unification at 47, then a push at 54. 54 is not going anywhere. Most of those fighters are the same age as Boots. Most of them, in majority, we have some younger ones. We have slightly few older ones. Those guys are probably leaving the division soon. The guys are in their upper 30s, except for the guys that just got there. But those guys have been there for a while. They will be moving up soon. So it's going to be plenty of time, plenty of fighters, plenty of space. Only person I see really making Boots feel like he should be moved to 54 would be a Charles Conwell, but he doesn't have a title, so there's no point. I think that's his greatest opportunity to fight someone, to give him a really good showing. I think we do praise Boots a little too much, and I do, which Roscoe said, I do agree with that. By giving them all those praise, you have kickback. You got to accept it. As you said, Clay, earlier when you started, the haters are here, and us, the fans, are like, yeah, take that. Oh, you know what I mean? You let us down. So, yes, it's such a hard slice of bread to live in between two slices of bread, right? It really is, because now you're being soft on this end, soft on that end, because you don't understand which way to go. But yet your legacy then plays a part, and that cements you in the Hall of Fame. That gets you accolades in boxing history. That gives people the opportunity to see you do more for less, as opposed to going somewhere for an interim title which at the end of the day is not going to get you anything except for a wish. At the end of the day, like they have to force that interim. We seen look at Benavidez. He had the interim title for how long? 3+ years, waiting for Canelo to fight him. Never happened. Even became the mandatory. Still never happened. So he's not guaranteed these fights, even at 154, to unify. Right. Let that guy take his chance of unifying, get his name in the mix of Hall of Fame, because that's what he wants. He wants to be a great, right? And then move up. Playing with weights and stuff, going to 54 down to 47. I believe he can do it, but I just think it's going to take a toll. And we all seen what happened to the greats that have played around like that. We've seen Roy Jones in his situation. We've seen other fighters in their situations that played around and got beat. Only successful one I would say would be like a Floyd Mayweather and a Manny Pacquiao. Those are like two I can name at the top of my head that were successful. But even Manny Pacquiao got beat by what's his name when he went down in weight from 147. So these things are hard to. It's not a great accomplishment to play around with the weight division. So I think him staying at 147 is his best move.
Yeah, but so I mean, just 1 second, Coach. I just want to get one quick answer from Ray. I just want this answered real quickly. If you could just land the plane on this real quick. That 147-pound conspiracy, was that, in your opinion, Eddie Hearn and Jerome Boots Ennis trying to strategically manipulate an opportunity and get this fight at 147, or is this just miscommunicated and just being kind of misrepresented? As far as what Eddie's saying is that it was a third-party situation, that they received an offer for 147. They didn't give an offer for 147. What are you more likely to lean towards and believe?
So I'm going to land the plane really quick. I'm going to plead the fifth on this. I am going to go back to what I said in my first statement today. The even a release of the fight was through a third party. So it was all negotiations based on the third party. So basically, it seems like no one really knew about this fight but the teams. Even the fighters. Vergil kind of looked like he was shocked a little bit, and he said something in one of his comments. But it looked like his team took advantage of it, and they signed the deal, and they verbally agreed on it. Probably based on what information, hey, you guys want to fight? Yeah, right? And that was it. And then when they started throwing the contract out there based on their acknowledgement, it looks like it might have been some confusion. So I'm not going to take on who's right and who's wrong because I'm not in that room, Clay. But I do believe that there may be some substance to what Eddie's saying at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I ain't gonna lie. What about you, Coach Eddie? How you feel about it?
Well, about the whole 147 thing, I think it was a bait and switch on somebody's part. Now, who bait and switch it? That's yet to be determined because, like I said, you got two sides of each story. It's like people's pointing fingers now. I believe that Boots, the original offer was, or the original talk was at 147, and then they just came back and changed the details of the contract, so to speak, if it was a contract, and switched it to 154. So I think they probably knew that Boots wasn't going to take it at 154. So now it makes Boots look bad, and make Vergil look like this hero or whatever, this guy who's willing to walk through fire and fight anybody. And it's making Boots look bad, at the end of the day. And y'all mentioned something. I heard y'all say something about the greats. And that's something I can't put great on any of these guys right now. Right. I can't put it on Tank. I can't put it on Shakur. I can't put it on Devin. Can't put it on Boots because they have not done anything great. They beat the people they were supposed to beat. There's nothing great about that. You know what I'm saying? Great is when you go in there and you defy the odds. You beat somebody that you wasn't supposed to beat. You beat somebody they said was going to kill you. Like when Ali beat George Foreman, they said Ali was going to get destroyed. That was great. When friggin' Duran went up and fought Iran Barkley, he was supposed to get killed in that fight. That was great. When he fought Marvin Hagler, he's supposed to get killed in that fight. That was great. So all these guys to me are yet to be determined, to be announced if they're great or not. They hadn't done anything yet, and I hold that sentiment for all of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see it play out. We're going to move on to the to something else, segue out of this. But I think it's interesting. I'm going to close out this part by just saying, man, I hope Boots gets what he's looking for. I hope whatever it is that he's trying to get together at 147 comes together for him. I would hate to not see it come together for him because it would compound this situation right here, because the opportunity obviously was right there for him to do something great at 154. And I don't mean great as far as just beating Vergil Ortiz, but I mean great as rolling out his campaign at 154. Gives him a lot of opportunity. I say it over and over again. 154 has checked all the boxes. It has the legacy there, it has the activity there, and it definitely has the money as a prize fighter there. 147 seems to just have potential possibilities there, and it's proven that he can sit there and be blackballed, that people have no problem not fighting him. There's nothing pressuring these champions into fighting Boots. Boots is on nobody else's sanctioning body's list. He can't be a mandatory as an IBF champion. He has the worst belt as far as, for somebody, in my opinion, somebody his size, having to stay inside of that rehydration clause. It's the worst belt for him to have as a champion in that division, because they're super strict, and he's definitely a big guy for that division. So, I mean, it is what it is. We'll see what they do. We'll see how they carry it. I'm going to segue and move on to the next one. The next topic, which is Schofield pushes for the fight and succeeds, right? And the reason I put that up there, guys, is because, you know, against all odds, Floyd Schofield Sr. and Jr. tried to push for this fight with Shakur. Shakur actually went out his way and had Eddie Hearn put together an offer. From what I understand from Eddie Hearn's side, as well as confirmation from the Schofield side, that this offer was super lucrative, the largest offer they ever got, life-changing money from what Schofield was saying. His eyes was popping out his head as far as amount of money. They said they would have done the fight for way less money. They were actually impressed by the offer, but ultimately we did see the fight get put together, but against all odds. I say that because we saw on Oscar De La Hoya's Clapback Thursday how he felt about the fight. He minimized Schofield down to being a prospect, and, you know, shamed Eddie Hearn and Shakur Stevenson for even offering a fight like this to his quote-unquote prospect. But look, Schofield Sr. got on the phone with Oscar De La Hoya, ironed it out, and said, listen, I appreciate your perspective and your opinion, but this is the fight we want. They pushed it through, and lo and behold, we have these guys as a co-main event. Well, you know, the third fight on the card, on one of the biggest cards of next year, it'll be Floyd Schofield versus Shakur Stevenson. What does this speak anything towards fighters' abilities to make fights? You know, whenever you hear things like, and I'm trying not to bring up Tank, but when you hear about a lot of these other fights, but I mean, I don't care, man. I don't care how people want to look at it. Look, that's the fight I'm talking about, because at the end of the day, that's the one where I've heard so much about across the street politics and him and people trying to fault Shakur Stevenson for signing with Eddie Hearn in Matchroom, saying that this was legitimately an obstacle and a reason as to why this fight couldn't get put together, that now Tank can't offer Shakur a fight while he's over there with Eddie Hearn. But here we see Schofield push through against not only across the street politics, but also his own promoter in Oscar De La Hoya speaking against his fight, but still getting this fight put together. Does this fight getting put together speak at all to the boxing space as far as the ability of these fighters to put together the biggest fights that they can put together, or put together at a minimum the fight that they want to have together? And we can start off. I'll start it coming full circle back the other way again. Actually, let's start off with Echo, and we'll come back full circle. So, Echo, how do you feel about that? As far as, is there any statements made? Is this speak towards the ability of these guys to make the fights when they want to make these fights?
Of course. I mean, the promoter works for you, same as the manager. You know, the manager can give you advice, but at the end of the day, you can call the shots, really. You know, so I've got to commend Schofield, you know, Floyd, for taking this fight, for sure. Because this is the kind of fight that if he does lose really badly, then they'll just say, well, he wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. And if he beats Shakur, then he's daring to be great. And if Shakur loses, then obviously the people say, well, he's just overrated. So, but you've got to give Schofield the credit for taking it. You know, he's actually showing who the real men are.
Yeah. What about you, Ray? What do you think?
Well,
I mean, there was so much you just said, Clay. Yeah, no, listen, it starts where it finishes. You know, they've been barking for a big fight, the opportunity to get into this fight. They got pushback from their coach, from their promotional company, saying, no, you know, this guy's picking on the prospects and things like that, which is so disrespectful. And Shakur trying to secure a fight. I mean, this is the highest, this is the best guy he can get. He's not even ranked in the top 40 in their sanction, which is crazy. I think he is number 40 actually, right? Mm-hmm. and the sanctioning body at WBC. But hey, it's the opportunity. Opportunity is everything, and I give Shakur more credit than I do Schofield for pushing for the fight, because Shakur is giving an opportunity to somebody that is young and up and coming for a chance to win. Kid Austin said it himself. Hey, if I lose, I should have opportunity to go back, go to the drawing board and start again. Shakur loses, this is devastating. This hurts his career. This makes people think that he was something he wasn't, but he's taking on the challenge. So I think this opportunity is really great. I think it's a success. And Schofield pushing for this fight and getting through Oscar's team and having them fight, sign the paperwork for this fight. Kudos to that team. I'm landing.
No doubt. Salute to you, Ray. Coach Eddie, how do you feel about as far as speaking towards these fights being made, man? What do you think about this fight getting put together?
Oh yeah, I agree with everything everybody just said. I think one thing I do maybe differ a little bit. I think that Oscar De La Hoya was willing to sacrifice or maybe use Schofield as a expendable. Because a lot of times when you get tired of dealing with certain fighters, then you'll put them out there. And maybe that senior's antics and going against the program, Oscar De La Hoya is like, you know what? I'm done with it. You want it? Fine. You want it? You got it. You know, that type of thing. And see what happens. You know, so but like you say, I think that Schofield will come in, that he will be highly motivated. This is a dangerous fight for Shakur, because this fight could catapult Floyd Schofield into some type of stardom, and he can jump the line by winning this fight or even looking good or being ultra competitive in this fight. It's a win-win for him. I don't think Shakur goes in there and blows him out. I really don't. I think that that Schofield comes in and applies a lot of pressure and stays active and stays busy and keeps it competitive. He'll get a moral victory on that standpoint. But it's a dangerous fight for Shakur, in my opinion.
I agree with you 100%. I salute both of them, man. I mean, I salute Shakur for giving an opportunity, because that's what he's really doing. No matter how anybody wants to paint it, that's what he's doing for Schofield. He has no legitimate reason to give this kid an opportunity, a chance at a title, whether he thinks he's taking advantage of him or not, whatever they want to paint it as. This Schofield ain't getting this from Tank. Right, Tank he's number 2 in the sanctioning body in the WBA, and he didn't qualify. Tank went out the weight class and is getting ready to fight Lamont Roach. He has obviously has a press conference, I think starts in about 10-15 minutes. You know what I'm saying, with Lamont Roach. So, you know, shout out to Shakur for giving him the opportunity. And shout out for Schofield for chasing down greatness. And when the opportunity came across the table, he didn't hesitate. Not only did he not hesitate, but he pushed back at his own promotional company to make this fight happen. So you got to give him his respect. What about you, Ross Scott? How do you figure deal on the topic? Are you there?
Yeah, I think for me, I think Oscar is kind of for me, I feel like the Zepeda situation kind of put a monkey wrench in his plans. So to me, it's like, okay, well, shoot, I got this fighter to fight him, you know, so we'll just take that chance. I think I mean, as far as like taking challenges, like even with what Echo spoke about earlier, and I said this before, we in a generation now where these boxing fans, and I seen it in the chat where people got this narrative where, oh, he's going into his man strength. He's in his late 30s now. He's stronger now. He's faster. No, it's because you guys are so used to seeing these fighters fight in their 30s that you guys forgot that people was in their primes in their early 20s. A lot of you guys forgot about Sugar Ray Leonard fighting in their 20s, Donald Curry fighting in his 20s. These guys was in their early 20s. Mike Tyson was 21 years old. Ali, like all you guys keep pushing this narrative. Oh, they're man strength. They're stronger in their 30s. You are not stronger in your 30s than you was in your 20s. I'm sorry. I don't care what nobody says. Just like you're not stronger in your 40s when you was in your 30s. Period, point blank. And I do believe that Schofield is ready for this fight. He is. And no matter what the outcome is, he was ready for this fight. He's where he needs to be right now to fight Shakur. Shakur is someone who is highly skilled, but he's passive. against a young guy that's aggressive. This is going to be a very good fight. No matter what the outcome is, for me as a boxing fan, I don't care if Shakur loses. If Shakur loses and you look at him as an overrated boxer after if he was to lose, then you don't know what you're watching. He wouldn't be overrated. He would just be losing to some young guy that's hungry, that's ready to fight. And I'm glad that these guys are fighting in their 20s, because what we did miss is Tank fighting in his 20s against Loma. We miss Haney fighting Tank and Teal fighting Tank, and all these guys mixing it up in their 20s. Now when these guys possibly fight, they'll be 35, 36. This is good for boxing, in my opinion.
Facts. Bombs.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it.
Listen, everything you said.
I think time. Guys, I always speak on timing, man. Timing makes everything happen. Then I always refer to the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, right? That's just the one that sits right there in front of my face. Like, that fight just happened so out of its time. We all knew when we saw that fight that night. We knew going into it, if you were a real boxing fan, you knew going into it, like, but at the end of it, you were upset. If you were a real boxing fan, you understood what just happened that night. You were like, these dudes was just shells of themselves. And what did we really see? Did we really see when we were all screaming for that fight to happen between Mayweather and Pacquiao? Is this what we pictured? Hell no. The time when we were calling for that fight to happen, we knew how that fight was going to look. And being that they fought at the end of their careers, it just didn't manifest. You know what I'm saying? It didn't manifest into what it was. So it is refreshing in its own way to see Shakur and Schofield fighting, you know, at prime times in their career. Maybe some people might want to push back and say Schofield will be better in 2 years. But listen, he's motivated now. He's ready now. He's an undefeated fighter now. He has the sparring experience with Shakur, so he's very confident going into it. And Shakur Stevenson is in his prime as well. In conversations to fight, you know, Tank Davis, and discussions on who's going to be the best guy at 135. So it's a great time for this fight to happen. Shout out to both those guys for coming together and doing something. And honestly, I have to double down and shout out to Turkey, because without Turkey, a fight like this doesn't get put together. And if it does get put together, it's nowhere near as prize fighting wise, as much money as they're probably both getting for this fight. They would never get this money in any other kind of way. It'd have been a fight for free on Top Rank or some other card, you know what I'm saying? Right. That they wouldn't even have been able to get paid for. So shout out to Turkey for seeing the reality that this fight is a great fight. And shout out to Shakur not letting, you're not ranked anything in my rankings, and you know, I mean, how many asses do you put in seats, or how many pay-per-views can I sell with you, get in the way of putting this fight together? And Schofield obviously for having the heart to put out the challenge, right? And for it to be taken. The
question comes in mind, Clay, also, and I don't want to bring Tank into the equation, but I'm going to. With this fight with Shakur and taking on Schofield, I mean, Schofield also wanted to fight Shakur at 126, y'all, when he was down there. So he did in 130 as well. So this is a dream come true, because he was calling him out when he was like 8-0 or 7-0 or something like that, which is hilarious. But now that we're here, does this hurt the stock of Tank, where Tank goes in history? Because he already got surpassed by 3 fighters at 135, right? We've seen Teal come up and pass him. We've seen Loma come up. Or Loma was there first, but Loma was already there, right? Made his stake, where Devin, who took unification undisputed to the next level, right? And they all left the division. It does look bad for Tank's team. Ultimately, I think when he's not taking on these fights that people want to see him, and don't get it twisted, because I think the Frank Martin was a really good fight. I just think that, you know, again, it was another fight where we don't believe the opponent was ready, and I think Tank exposed that. I see a similar outcome here with Schofield. I don't think Schofield's really ready for these lights. A lot of ballroom fights, and when he gets out there in that arena, does his fear come into play? Does the butterfly start rumbling in his stomach? Does he start thinking what happens if he wins instead of going out there to perform? So it could be the same outcome. Or does he grit his teeth, muscle down, and then go in there and knock Shakur out, and sees his dream as he walked into that ring, as he called this fight? Does he see it happening? At the end of the day, this is what boxers do, and this is what Shakur gets the accolades, in my opinion, for representing Jersey. Yes, baby. You know what I mean? So, we're going to definitely take that on the stamp. And we're going to say, yes, this is definitely something that boxers need to look into. Again, Devin Haney's daddy, Mr. Bill, said that Floyd Mayweather era is over. With saying that, it means taking on the big fights, forget about the money. Let's make legacy happen. Let's make everything happen. Let's bring boxing back to the forefront. Let's have the best challenge, best fight the best. The best challenges come forward, and let's get all these fights on. Rematches happen. It ain't a fight with significance if it's not a rematch or a trilogy or things like that. That's when you have a great thing happening in boxing. So I think this could be something that can lead to that. If not here, maybe down the line with something else. So salute to them guys, and hope everything goes well.
No doubt, no doubt. So going into you just sis boxing isn't about money but legacy. Yeah. Anyway, that being said, going into the next topic, Vergil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov. Let's try to get through this. You know what I mean? Vergil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov, right? I mean, obviously this will segue right into the bigger topic, which is Riyadh season, February 22nd, and this crazy card that's getting ready to come up. But specifically Vergil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov. Guys, we know, right? We know at the end of the day that Vergil Ortiz was, supposedly in discussion of fighting with Jaron Boots Ennis, but had no dancing partner. We heard a lot of potential partners. We heard about Sebastian Fundora. We heard about even Xander Zayas, but now we've come full circle to a strange, not likely. I don't think anybody saw this coming, but look, it's Israel Madrimov, right? This guy just came off of a super competitive fight with Terrence Crawford. Some people want to argue that they thought he beat Terrence. I'm not one of those guys, but I'll agree that the fight was competitive. Israel Madrimov impressed me, showed that he was more, people try to emphasize on his 10 wins and, his lack of experience as a professional boxer. But as I told you guys, as far as these Eastern Europeans are concerned and that amateur background they're coming in there with, obviously those 300 plus amateur fights that Israel Madrimov brought to the table made a difference. He, in some arguments, could say has fought more fights than Terrence Crawford, right? Just off the strength of how many amateur fights he had, was able to compete at the highest level in the sport, and which was against the pound for pound best fighter in the world. He's supposed to be fighting against Serhii Bohachuk, supposedly in a few weeks here on this Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk card. Very interesting, but I haven't heard any word saying that fight is canceled. So I have to assume that he'll be fighting on December 21st with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk on that card against Serhii Bohachuk, who arguably beat Vergil Ortiz in that last fight he had, right? And then we're to expect him to fight February 22nd on this huge Riyadh season card again against Vergil Ortiz. What do you guys on the panel think about this fight and the circumstances of this fight? And we can start off. We can start off with Ross Cott and come back full circle from there. Ross Cott, you want to build on that one?
Yeah, I think this is a great fight. I think this is, to me, I know that Boots is popular, but to me, this is just as a good fight. Madrimov is Ortiz as Boots is to Ortiz. And this is another hard fight that Ortiz is taking on, because in my opinion, he had a hard fight and he lost that one where he got dropped. I think he got dropped twice.
Yeah.
I thought he lost that fight. So here we are again. He's taking on another challenge. And the more fighters do exactly what Ortiz is doing and not doing that, oh, what does this fight do for me? It's low risk, high risk, low reward. Once we get rid of that, we're going to get more fights just like this. And these Europeans are going to get more opportunities because what I see is a lot of these Europeans they're going to be getting ducked soon. So this is like, okay, this is okay. This is it. Like Ortiz, like I fought one, I'm fighting another one. You feel me? So I like it. I think this is going to be good. And I personally think Madrimov is going to win, on the side note.
Yeah. Listen, man, you're not alone. You're not alone. I think this is an uphill battle. And yeah, man, I got to lean towards Madrimov right now, man. I got to, man. Let's go with Coach Eddie. Coach Eddie, you available to speak on it, or are you a little tied up?
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir. I agree with what Ross Clyde just said and what you just said. I'm going with Madrimov. And I hate the echo Poly Malignaggi because he's not one of my favorite guys, but he was saying this 2 or 3 years ago. He was talking about how these Eastern European fighters are better. And he was saying something about the black fighters on what they used to be. You know what? He's right. These black fighters, I mean, they come in, they got all the flash, they got all the bells and whistles, they got the fancy uniform, the sequence, the jury, and they're losing. Or they're looking bad. And these Eastern Europeans, they're coming from impoverished areas and they're hungry. These fighters are hungry. And that's the difference right now. And with this fight with Vergil Ortiz, I'm leaning towards Madrimov in this fight. I think Vergil Ortiz shows some vulnerabilities in a lot of his fights because he gets hit a lot. He's willing to exchange. I think Madrimov is a big puncher, a little bigger puncher than he's probably used to facing as far as one punch shot power. It's a different animal. And I think also the experience being in there with Terrence Crawford may have made Madrimov a better fighter. A lot of times it's like when you fight a guy, you gain some of his power, so to speak, even if you lose. You will learn a lot from that experience right there. So I think that experience is going to serve him well with a guy like Vergil Ortiz, which is basically Vergil fights with he got that hot blood in him. No diddy. He fights, if you hit him, he wants to hit you 5 times. You know what I'm saying? He's an emotional fighter. I mean, I seen Vergil Ortiz get hurt and try to fight out of it instead of trying to clinch, try to survive. That's Vergil Ortiz right there. So he can get a little reckless at sometimes, which makes why he's a fun fighter to watch. Is his vulnerability, is his willingness to go in and exchange with a guy. So this is going to be a tricky proposition right here for Vergil. I'm going with Madrimov in this fight.
No doubt. Ray Davis, man, you want to add something, contribute to the conversation? What do you think? Now, let me send it back to you the right way, Ray, just so make sure that you cover the points, right?
I'm good.
Right? A, what do you think about the fight, obviously? B, the confusion between him fighting December 21st and as far as Israel Madrimov fighting December 21st and him going to turn around fighting 2 months later on February 22nd. And I would say that was A, B, and then I would say C, Vergil Ortiz. Does he get all the credit in the world for jumping into the ring with another Eastern European, knowing what he went through with Serhii Bohachuk? What say you, Ray?
I say, can I get a Conor McGregor?
Do I have that Conor McGregor thing here? Let me see here. Hold on a second. What did me see? Not that. Hold on. No. Nope.
You want?
Nope.
Man.
I don't have it no more on my soundboard.
Oh, look at this guy. It's okay. Listen. Well, anyway, this fucking guy, right?
Right.
I give Clay a lot of credit for speaking on the Eastern European fighters and saying how they're going to come into this boxing arena and they're going to showcase. So let's start there. Off of what Rosclott said, right? Because a lot of our fighters became more of performers than great dancing partners with each other and others. They want to look pretty in the ring. Unfortunately, that's what it is. One, I want to give Madrimov his flowers. I think he definitely is definitely a trooper for taking on 2 contracts for 2 fights on the same with the same guy on 2 different cards, right? Less than 2 months away from each other, which is amazing. They staying active. It shows what boxing is about. It shows what everybody else can do. That being said, Madrimov, win or lose with Bohachuk, I think he goes in there. He beats Vergil. I think he is definitely a great dancing partner for most of the guys at 154. And to touch on your last question, Clay, I think that I do think it's good for boxing, but I think on your last question, which I'm trying to remember because I just ran down a whole list of things.
Right. Well, I mean, the more important thing is does Vergil get celebrated for this? You know what I'm saying? As far as taking his challenge with another Eastern European after he just had he could have easily went to Xander Zayas' way, right? And went to it was there for him, but he walks away from that and jumps into Israel Madrimov situation. It's not the easiest fight he could be making at 154.
So I give credit where credit's due. They're boxers. I don't think this is a credit to give to Vergil. I think Vergil already signed his end of the deal, and whoever just like they did with Jared Anderson, quote unquote, right? And Turkey said, "Well, I got a guy for you." And Vergil's like, "Hey, just bring me the paperwork, man. Just bring me whoever you got." And I think the best opportunity was Madrimov. I think he was the one that they felt that would give a great fight. They like the style that he brings. It's a little different than what Bohachuk brought. We're going to see exactly how Magomedov deals with a Vergil Ortiz when he fights Bobby Chuck, who is a similar fighter. We just seen that fight, and it was like two guys in the mirror dancing with each other. So we're going to see this back to back. Good thing is it gives Magomedov, win or lose, the opportunity to know what he's going against with Vergil. That's why I think Vergil was at a disadvantage, and I think it was a mistake on his part to take this fight with him blindly instead of pushing for the Xander Zayas fight or something like that, where he can clearly prepare for it. So yeah, I can see that being a problem.
Yeah. I'm gonna walk it over to Echo. Before you say anything, Echo, I also want everybody to take in consideration that although Xander Zayas was an option, was he an option? Because Bob Arum last time let one of his top prospects get in the ring with a Martin Bacoli, if we remember. That didn't end well. Bob Arum was very upset at the results of that fight, said he wouldn't have put that fight together if it was up to him. Here he is faced with another decision to put another one of his top prospects getting ready to be one of the best contenders in the busiest, most competitive division in the sport today. And here comes Turki Al-Sheikh again with another offer that he can't refuse, and potentially putting in there with a seasoned Vergil Ortiz, a puncher, and Vergil Ortiz. So we don't know. We got to take Bob Arum into consideration as well, as far as what role he played in this fight not happening between Xander and Vergil Ortiz. But I'll go over to Echo. Echo, how do you feel about this fight? What it looks like Vergil Ortiz, A, making a decision to go ahead and take this challenge with Israel Madrimov, B, Israel Madrimov being on two big cards. He's going to be on this card coming up in a few weeks to fight against Serhiy Bajak, the guy who beat Vergil Ortiz. Oh, well, he didn't beat him, but I mean, people thought he beat him, but he was definitely part of Fight of the Year. At least we all can agree on that. And also, as far as Vergil Ortiz being celebrated, right? What do you think about this fight, this matchup?
I think it's a great matchup. I think it's a really good matchup. I really do. And for Madrimov to do all these fights back to back from Crawford, right through. I mean, that's just amazing, really, to be honest, because that's what boxers should be doing nowadays. Doing these fights, not fighting easy fights. None of those fights he's had or he's going to have are going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to give him credit for that. But I do believe Madrimov will win the fight with Ortiz, because Ortiz tends to, as Coach Eddie said, just to throw caution to the wind, and sometimes he always tries to end the combinations, and he doesn't reset. He doesn't clinch a lot. It's not educated, meaning like you can fight intellectually or you can fight mechanically, and I think he's got a tendency to fight mechanically. That might be his downfall in a fight such as, because Madrimov shown his patience against Crawford. He didn't just go blazing, when he fought Crawford. A lot of people believe that, he beat Crawford. There's a few people that think that. I mean, and when you watch the fight, I watched it 3 times, and he landed a lot of rear hands on Crawford, and nobody ever does that normally. So he can definitely do this against the other guys, especially as they fight more, like rock and sock'em, basically. Chuck and Ortiz, that was like rock and sock'em, really. Excellent fight, but not purely skillful. Where Madrimov is a bit more angled, uses feints, is a bit more subtle.
More technical, right?
Yeah, it's more technical for sure. Yeah. But I think if he beats Ortiz, it would be Ortiz who'll be keep his head online.
Right.
He does that quite a lot. So does Burchuk, by the way. So they both do. Where Madrimov doesn't. He's got a lot more angles to him.
So we circle the wagons back to what this conversation really is coming down to. We can segue into it. I don't want to make it too much longer, but I would like everybody's opinion on this question right here on the screen. Is this an overkill? This question right here, what people are saying, or just accurately describing what we're looking at for February 22nd. The boxing space is saying all over the place, Turki Al-Sheikh announces the greatest card ever. Is this the greatest card ever, guys? I mean, look, there's one thing to say tongue in cheek and to just, be excited about getting a competitive card like this, being that the boxing space doesn't always give it to us. And if we ever get something like this, it is from Turkey. But I mean, is this an overstatement, or is this accurately speaking on what it is? Is this card on paper the best card, the greatest card ever put together? We can go with Echo. Let Echo go and bring it back full circle.
Well, that's a subjective opinion, really, to be honest. But you've got 6 world champions on there, fighting. Mm-hmm. Very rarely do you get that. You know what I mean? Very rarely you can get 4 champions. And you can go right through the history of boxing. You might get smaller fights, like maybe the featherweights, supporting the heavyweights or whatever. But usually they're not really that popular. But all these guys are quite well known, and each country will have a following of each fighter. Like you've got Callum Smith in there. He's got a big following from the UK. He was a world champion. Yeah, I think it's got. I don't say it's the greatest ever because it's subjective, but it is an excellent card. It's probably the best card in the last 20 years for sure.
Yeah. What do you think, Ray?
Well, I'm not going to say best
card ever, or
no,
is it?
No.
I mean, so okay,
not.
good. So you're saying no. I also want you, after you finish saying what you're saying, to please go into the card that would compete with this card, in your opinion.
Okay, no problem. But I'm going to say no, and the reason why I'm going to say no is not because it's all champions. I'm just going to say it's the most expensive card ever. This is definitely a card that's worth every penny. This would probably be the like Ego said. This is probably contender one of the best card in the last 15 years. This is really a great opportunity to see some of the greats, and they're all champions. But we're not getting to see super duper fights. Now, I'm going to say last year, was it 5 for 5, or what was it when
you talking about the five cards better? You talking about the 5v5? You talking about the heavyweight card where it was all heavyweights? I think it was not the one in December last year. I'm talking about the one that happened early this year in February. You're talking about the one with Daniel Dubois and Jarrell Big Baby Miller and Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker. That to me was, I think, up there with one of the best cards I've ever seen. So again, saying the best card is subjective, just like Echo said. And I think that card's right up there because, I mean, it was a whole bunch of heavyweights just going at it with each other, eliminating each other in the ring. You don't really have cards where there are guys eliminating each other to take on the next fighter that's in front of them or behind them while they're fighting. So that right there was like an elimination card, I would say, or like a tournament. And as much as we don't want to play it as that, but it was. And that to me had a lot of significance. Whereas our boy in this card, Turkey's card here, I think is definitely the most expensive. I think even with the heavyweights and them getting paid the money that they get, I think this trumps that. I think this is bringing a lot of superstars over there. I do think it's an action-packed card. I do think that this card does deliver to the fans what we wanted to see in boxing. We want to see the best fight the best, and this is definitely along those lines. This is definitely a lot of credence to Turki Al-Sheet, sparing no expense. This is definitely Turki Al-Sheet doing his best and giving the fans what they want. If there's a Ring Magazine title that comes out of this somehow, some way, let it be official, guys. Let it be official, and let these guys start fighting for that title because Turkey is changing boxing every single day. I just heard somebody say that, and you guys can laugh at me if you want, that I think it was on Twitter or X rather, that the PBC put on the best 2 cards or quarter this year. They're going to have the best quarter in the first part of 2025. What? I'm out. Hold on. Somebody go hang yourself. Please go hang yourself because this just trumped both those cards. Sorry.
Honestly.
Trumped it. So salute to you, brother. Whoever said that, made that analogy. I'm definitely saying it's definitely the card to beat, and who knows what he has planned in 2025 for the rest of the year. And I can't wait to see what the undercard is, because if you got fights like this on the main card, you might see a Nick Ball or somebody else on that card on the undercard. That's
Nah,
gonna be
I was saying that the other day. I was saying, put Nick Ball on this card, bro, to like unify something with like Angelo Leo or like I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
so
I'm
many
just
great
saying,
fights that could be
the
made.
list goes on, right? So
Yeah.
I land the plane. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Coach Eddie.
Yeah, no doubt, Coach Eddie. Go ahead, tap in. Turki Al-Sheikh announces the greatest card ever, Coach Eddie. Are you ready to go there, or is this just a little bit of excitement getting caught up when they say that? Coach Eddie's not available. Ross Clark.
No, it's not the best card ever. I mean, to me, if it's subjective, and to me, no. I don't see any ATGs, future ATGs on this card. So maybe the Bivol, maybe I don't even know. I don't even think Better Be is an ATG, but it's a good card. It's the best card this year. But I'll just say that it's the best card this year. Best card ever? No, hell no.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's the best card ever. I'm not willing to say that, but I'm gonna say, man, damn it. Like Ray said, and Ray don't realize he said it. The only thing he could compare to this card to make it a better card was another Turki card. You know what I'm saying? So it's safe to say that Turki's putting on the best cards ever. You know what I mean? That Turki's responsible for the best cards ever. And when we're talking about cards, man, guys, I want you guys to keep it in perspective what that means. When I'm saying best card, I'm not talking about the best headliner. I'm not talking about the best co-main event. I'm talking about as far as a full production of boxing, right? And then you can even factor in the price point that this is going to be a $25 pay-per-view card. As far as production is concerned, for a boxing fan, a hardcore boxing fan who wants to see competitive fights, this card is, if not the best, in the conversation with the best. I don't know. I mean, obviously, hindsight will be the best perspective to share on this card after it's all said and done. But damn it, on paper, man, you'd be hard pressed to find one better, man. You guys could bring it up. I don't know. 6 fights on the main card looking like this. And like Grace said, we haven't even talked about any prelim fights that may be put together for this. Man, this card is very hard to deny. It's the glory. You know what I'm saying?
Clay.
Yeah.
Clay, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize for that.
No,
Also, for that price point, fans got to ask themselves, is this worth paying $24.99, or is Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach worth paying the 30-something or 40-something that's going to be?
30-something. I heard it's going to be $70 to $90.
Right. Yeah. Right. So when you look at it, this card right here is showing you what boxing's supposed to be, not that crap that you're going to see on Amazon. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, man, you hit on the nose, man. The perspective on it, and it can segue into that, man. Just, people, listen, man. It's been lonely on this island, and I'm glad to be in good company nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't always like this. Speaking this conversation was not an easy conversation to speak about on different platforms. I don't know about you guys' experience, but the hell I've caught for giving Turki his flowers, for hoping that Turki would move in the direction he's moving now. The pushback at Turki's presence, and even to this day, Turki getting a lot of pushback as far as people rather not. I don't understand. People rather not see these kind of cards. They'd rather deal with the what's going on today at this press conference and this card that's going to get introduced. They'd rather this be the boxing that they know as being the high level boxing in America, rather than celebrate cards like this coming your way for $25. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Look, man, I told Echo earlier when it was just me, him on here, I said, we're going to have to start separating these conversations and separating, right? Echo, I said, it's going to have to be the boxing fans and the other guys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm not one of the other guys. I'm a boxing fan. You know what I mean? The other guys have a whole different narrative, a whole different agenda, a whole different reason as to what they want out of the sport of boxing. And then you got the boxing fans who see great boxing and celebrate it and ask for more great boxing. They go with the Oliver Twist approach and they say, please, sir, can I have some more? You know what I'm saying? That's what they say. They don't play the other game, which is like, but it's not in America, so I don't want to see this nonsense. Out of here with Turki. What we need to be talking about is what we're dealing with today. You know what I mean? So look, it is what it is, man. I'm gonna let everybody get a little closing, you know what I mean? A closing statement. I'll just say, yes, Raphael, we gotta celebrate Turkey. Turkey is killing them. If you can't stay, if you don't got the staying power to play, if you can't stay, you can't pay, you can't play. You know what I mean? And Turkey showing over and over and over and over and over again that this is not a game for the weak of heart, right? This is, only the strong will survive. And Turkey showing some staying power, bro. Can't wait to see what 2025 looks like with Riyadh season, and I can't wait for this February 22nd card. It can't literally get here quick enough for me. Let's go ahead with Roscoe. If you want to close out and say anything, we're at the end of the day, man.
Yeah, I just want to say, what Riyadh season, what they're doing, what Turkey is doing, is exactly what these big money, all these promoters, all these guys need to step up and start making these type of fights, demand these type of fights. If they don't want to fight, strip them. I think at some point, in order, I say it again, in order for boxing to stay at the level as being the best combat sport, the best got to fight the best contenders got to fight each other. And then when those contenders become where they're supposed to be, then they fight who they're supposed to fight. So I think what Turkey is doing is great. And for all the fans, the boxing fans out there who don't like what Turkey is doing, and they're usually PBC boxing fanboys. If Al Heyman was doing exactly what Turkey was doing, none of us would have a problem with PBC. But since you guys got your fighters sitting and everybody's inactive, and you trying to push boxing fans to pay pay-per-view for Lamont Roach and Tank Davis, you guys are going to always get criticized, while Turkey is going to keep getting praised for giving us good fights. And salute. That's all I got to say.
No doubt, Roscoe, man. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for being on the panel today, brother. Coach Eddie, how you feel, man? You want to close this out?
Yeah, man. Hey, great show as usual, Claymore. It's good to be in the building with the adults, man. That's a good thing. Turkey Al-Sheikh, what he's doing, man. This card right here, it may not be the best card, but as far as freaking action and value, because these cards, you notice there's no tomato cans on this card, and no, I want to say shout out to the tomato cans, but tomato cans don't turn down nothing but their collar. Tomato cans, they don't duck no smoke. They take whatever in front of them. So shout out to the so-called tomato cans in the bomb. I don't believe that. I don't believe that term, but that's the term they throw around. I'm team tomato can. I'm team tomato can. But man, I'm telling you, man, this is a great fight, action packed. This is something that you can look forward to. I love boxing. I'm a boxing fan. Some of these pay-per-views they've been putting on lately, I've seen better fights on Friday night fights. And I'm not being facetious. I'm telling the doggone truth. I've seen better fights on Tuesday night and Friday night fights. These guys that they want to make us wait for Christmas, like once a year to see them guys fight. You guys are a thing in the past. Out of sight, out of mind. You're not bigger than boxing. Ask Muhammad Ali, ask Floyd Mayweather, ask any star, or they're bigger than boxing. It'll move on without you. So Tank Davis, you're not bigger than boxing. I can care less if you ever lace up a pair of gloves again. And that goes to anybody else sitting around waiting for a whole year. Like I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumb waiting for you to get back in the ring. Not me. I'm a boxing fan. This card right here is going to deliver action. This is like a freaking Funk Flex mixtape. This is a mixtape right here of boxing, man. And that's what I'm digging right now, man. But I'm gonna end it right there, brother.
Man, I appreciate you once again for being on the panel, Coach Eddie. Always welcome, man. Hope this I would love this to be a more regular thing. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what time tells. What time tells that story,
Clay,
man. Yeah,
Clay, real quick. It's my first time being on the panel with Coach Eddie, but I listened to him before, and I always like what he say. Having him and Echo and all of y'all at the same time, that's dope. Like, this is a good panel right here.
Yo, I love it. When I seen it coming together, I said it when Echo came up. I said, listen, man, I'm only going to I saw Echo and Ray and Coach Eddie was up here. I said, it's only going to be one other person. What did I say, guys? Y'all were on here. What I said only one other person I'm probably going to let up on this panel. And I said, Roscoe. Yo, I said, Roscoe be the only one to get up on you. Other than that,
thank you, Clay. Appreciate you.
That's why I literally said, man, that I meant that shit, man. This is great, and like Coach Eddie said, welcome to the adult. You know what I mean? Being in a room with the adults, man. Great boxing talk, moving through the points, speaking, and not, you know, and not everybody having the same opinion, but yo, look, man, enjoying the perspective from other adults who are watching the sport with the close eye that I'm watching it, right? So I love every moment of it. So I appreciate you guys being up here, man. It's great. I'm gonna
appreciate you and Ray. Salute.
No doubt.
Man.
That being said, segueing into co-host Ray Davis in the building. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, Ray, I'll let you go out last, bro. I'm gonna go straight to Echo. Echo, how you want to close it out? Anything you want to say about the card, about the show today, about anything? How you feeling?
Well, the card, you know, it's a welcome. You know what I mean? Because I don't really think it matters where you have the fights, as long as you get the fights. Whether you have them in Ireland, Scotland, where it doesn't matter really. You know. And we've got to give Turkey credit for putting this on. And what he's doing also, every time he's raising the game, if you notice, he's raising the bar. And it's going to make it more difficult for other people that do promotion, especially, you know, a subpar promotion, you know, to make any money, especially from pay-per-view. Because as the coach said earlier, Coach Eddie said, I don't really care if Tank fights again. I don't care. Because he's not doing what he should be doing. I mean, he won his title in his 17th fight, and really, he's not really tested himself since, really, other than maybe the Barrios fight and the other fights, you know, with some form of test, but not really where he was. It wasn't not favourite, and I'd like to see more fights like this card. Everybody's, you know, it's more of an even fights. None of these fights are given. You know what I mean? There's nobody can say, well, this guy's definitely going to win. Right. You know, so I've got to hats off to Turkey for doing this, and he's raising the standards for boxing really, and he's going to put a lot of promoters on their toes now for sure.
No doubt, man. Man, I appreciate you, man, for being on the show as well, and the panel, celebrating all you guys. These is like the best panel, I think, right here. I don't know, man. Like, I think this is pretty much it. I don't know if there's anybody missing
it's always a pleasure to come on here, you know. Really it is.
No, man, I appreciate you, man. You bring so much value to the platform, and I always walk away thinking about boxing and enjoying boxing and looking forward. You know, you guys make it worthwhile to do these shows in the morning like this. Make it worthwhile, because I know it's going to be a great build, man. And that's what this is all about, man. So I appreciate you, Echo, you, Roscott, and definitely you, Coach Eddie. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
Without yo, so Ray, man, another one in the books, right? Another great build. We talked about it all today. We talked about Jerron. Was he ducking? Is he not ducking? We talked about Schofield and Shakur. We talked about great fights getting put together. We talked about one of the greatest cards, quote unquote, ever put together by Turki Al-Sheikh. We talked about a lot today, man. It's what we do, right? Almost 3 hours into the day. So how do you feel? And close us out, man. Get us up out of here, man.
I just want to say thank you to everybody, first of all, that came on the panel, any super chats that were in the building. Thank you. And feel free, man. You know what they say, right? Are you not entertained? You should be entertained. Man, leave a dollar in the chat or something, man. Let Clay know that you really support his channel. If this is where it's at, man. This guy's been screaming. I want to give my Clay's placement. Clay's been screaming a lot of things and conversation with me and on the channel outside of the show. He's been saying that the Eastern European fighters are going to be a danger. He's been saying Turki Al-Sheikh is going to take over boxing, and there's no exception. This thing that Boots Ennis should go to 54 before everyone else. Me and him had this conversation. I mean, I think I was maybe a step ahead of him, but regardless, we still had this conversation. And he was on channel saying Boots should go to 54 when there was a lot of denial on this. He was getting pushed back. He was getting basically jumped, stomped out on the concrete. And guess what? That man's standing at the top of the pillar right now. Why? Because he's talking about all the things. Listen, man, salute to you and your glory on all your predictions that you said, Clay, because a lot of these things wouldn't have happened if you didn't stay true to yourself. A lot of these things wouldn't have happened right now if you didn't believe. And guess what? The fruition had happened. You have brought this all to life. I'm not saying that you have a contact with Turkey. I'm not saying that you have a contact with all these other things that's happening in boxing space, right? But you believe, and all the things you believe came true. And I'm glad to see that you're smiling right now. Like, damn, man, I called this, man. Damn, man, Yo, what was they talking about? Yo, I stayed quiet in those rooms. I let these guys just sit there and think they had me, right? But I knew it was coming because I sat there and read between the lines and I seen this happening. You know what I mean? In my best Clay attempt. But listen, man, salute to you, man. Praise the Clay today. Hit the horns. Clay more rain. Guys, leave something in the chat for Clay today if you can. Let that guy know you respect him, please. Like I said, even if it's $1, man, let that guy know, man. He's for real. He really did his thing, man. Absolutely, Clay.
Kudos, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Salute to you guys, and salute to Ray Davis. You know what I mean, being a great co-host, man. Y'all don't know, you know what I mean. Ray talked me into some of these situations that, you know, this situation in particular. I wasn't gonna do this, bro. I'm still dealing with stage fright when I do this. But Ray was like, nah, you gotta build with the community, man. Trust me, they gonna like this kind of a conversation. Shout out to Echo as well for being one of these people. He was like one of the first guys really up on here when I was messing up the whole entire just messing the whole system up, just being horrible. You know what I mean? Just horrible. It was just, right? It was horrible, man. So just trying to get a hold and the hang of this thing to where it is right now, man. Yeah, I appreciate the accolades, appreciate the love, man. We trying to do the best thing that we can for world championship.
You're doing a great job, man. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, man. Thank you to you guys, man. Salute to you guys, and salute to the to everybody supporting in the building, man. We'll see you guys in the morning. Guess what? We got so much stuff to talk about still. I would never compound it into one show. Let's remember we got Liam Paro against Richard Hitchison coming up Saturday. We've got Robesi Ramirez and Rafael Espinoza this weekend. We've got a sequel to Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez and some undercards there as well. And of course, we got to get ready for the big fight, the last fight of the year for Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season, when we have Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury going at it for a second go about, and an excellent undercard that's coming up under there as well. So you guys be here tomorrow, because we're going to be building on that all day.
All right, you guys take it easy. Thanks for letting me come on and have my 2 cents or whatever you want to call it. You have a good evening anyway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Salute to all you guys, man. Salute.
Take care. Bye-bye.
They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate.